starts in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
The following content contains adult language and humor that is not suitable for viewers under the age of 18. Viewer discretion is strongly advised. The views and opinions expressed during the following video content are those of the individual and may not reflect those of others. Thank you.
Pacific414 Pop Talk is here. Sit back and relax and join the conversation. We've got Baron, Norman, Tax, Cash Money, 007, and even Mike too. Pop culture, entertainment, news and reviews. Discussions are had, opinions made from the panel to the chat. Everyone is welcome here. Reactions, watch parties, and special guests. We like to have a good time. Pacific414 Pop Talk is underway. Pull up a seat, we're inviting you to stay. Articles, collectibles, reviews, you say. Baron, Cash, and Mike bring the fun tonight. Now sit back, relax, enjoy the show. Don't forget to like or comment below. We almost forgot to share out the show. Pacific414 Pop Talk is one of a kind. It's true. True. It's true. Relax and enjoy the show.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome one and all to this Wednesday edition of Pacific414 Pop Talk, coming to you live on X, on YouTube, and on Rumble. Along with Baron Norman Tag, I am your host, Mike. We will bring in our special guest, Tommy, and the Guinea Pig Collective here in shortly, where we will talk about his channel and the art of collecting. But first, Baron, how are you doing?
There's a guinea pig sitting in Cash's chair right now.
And what's the problem?
I don't know. He's just looking at me strangely. And he's filing his nails. I don't know. I'm kind of scared, but I'm doing okay. Digging out of the big snowstorm we got through. We had, finally hit winter. March 4th finally got winter here in Minnesota. Yay!
Yeah, it's been a stormy, windy, rainy day here in my area, and it's, in the mid 60s, but you
Mm.
can't do anything because of all the rain.
Well, you can, but you get wet and blown away. You gotta look at it that way.
Yeah, true, but I'd rather it be clear and sunny if it's going to be in the mid 60s, but what are you going to do? It's Mother Nature. You can't control it.
You can still wear your swim trunks, man. Wear your swim trunks, go right out there with the American flag and scream in the air, America! Like that.
Yes. And of course, today, like I said, we will be talking to Tommy of Tommy and the Guinea Pig Collective. He, like myself, is a Transformers fan, but he collects more than just Transformers, and he talks about more than just Transformers during his shows on his YouTube channel, which he also does with mini art. So, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our special guest for this evening, Tommy of Tommy and the Guinea Pig Collective.
Greetings. Aaron, I am still giving you the evil piggy eye, and I just want to say hi to everybody in the chat, and I'm not even supposed to be here today. What's going on, guys? How y'all doing?
Doing good.
That guinea pig is looking at me still. He's doing that little eye thing where he has two fingers, points at his eyes, and he turns around and points them at me. I don't know.
Baron, that would be assimilation. If you notice, the red eye is pointing at you, and it is partially, ever so slightly lit up. We are in the
Hmm.
process of assimilating you now.
Oh, cool. Well, as long as I'm not a hamster anywhere near Richard Gere's house, I'm happy.
Well, hey, we can turn you into a gerbil
No,
too. Just
no,
be careful,
no,
friend.
no,
Be careful.
no, 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 no.
Remember, Baron, just as with the Borg, your
Mm.
biological and technological distinctiveness will be added to their own.
Hey, they
Resistance
don't.
is futile.
They don't want my biological or my technical in there.
Everything has a use for the collective.
Everything. Of course, one of your other mottos on your channel, Tommy, is the Pig World Order.
Oh
Mm.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But that was something we were actually kicking around for a while. So, like, a real quick backstory about how the guinea pig collective, the whole thing got started. So, when I first jumped on YouTube years and years and years ago, I just started off, doing like a lot of people do, just watching some of the channels and eventually engaging with people in the chats. Got to know a few people like Adam Shawhan early on, back during the days of watching Odin's movie blog, and
Mhm.
eventually I'd landed into a position of modding for a few channels and just being a chat nuisance. Certain channels, just I liked them, so I just wanted to be a nuisance to them. And it started off with one guy who was always, I said, failing his chat. So the first one I came up with was a guinea pig with a bow and arrow, and I was the green arrow guinea pig, and I would tell him all the time that he had failed his chat. Eventually somebody said something about the Borg, and I said, "Yeah, you will be assimilated. Resistance is futile." And he said, "What are you, the Borg?" And I said, "No, we are the Guinea Pig Collective." And that's how that got started. It got started with a joke in the chat, and then
Mhm.
it just kind of evolved from there. So it just kind of made sense because I was always into a lot of science fiction, science fantasy type stuff. I used to watch the old Star Trek reruns with my father. Of course, he took me out to see Star Wars. We watched Battlestar Galactica, Buck Rogers, you named it. And then, of course, when Transformers came along, it's like even before it was Transformers, and we'll get into that at some point when you decide you want to go full on board with Transformers talk. But yeah, I fell in love with a lot of those styled figurines that they first came
Mhm.
out before they were even Transformers, which, like I said, that's a conversation. When you're ready for that one, we can get into it. But yeah, I mean that's how the channel got started. Of course, the Guinea Pig Collective. Yes, and in case you want to ask, I do have real guinea pigs. The one that's up in the picture was the first guinea pig I ever had, which was Jackson. And Jackson
Mm.
was a huge personality pig. The icon is actually done by my daughter, who's a bit of
Mhm.
an artist herself, and she
Oh.
drew that one, which is Cringer. So technically, Cringer was the first one to get like the Borg attachments done, especially in like a chibi type drawing. So
Mhm.
Hmm. That's
Yeah,
cool.
it's
because
cute.
the first time I actually came across your channel, I was looking around at your videos. I saw, okay, he's into Transformers, and of course, the icon caught my eye. I'm going, Tommy and the Guinea Pig Collective, and he's got a Borgified guinea pig, and
You know, I thought it was a cool idea when, like I said, when it came up in that chat, and I just ran with it. I mean,
yeah,
that's what you got to do. Life is all about taking chances.
Yep.
So
yeah, because you never know how something's going to start. And like you said, you had a conversation in the chat, and that's pretty much how your channel came about. I mean, I've told people a few times, the Pacific part of my channel comes from an area where I lived when I lived out in California, and the number 414 was a prominent number, especially in a lot of the neighborhoods around my area. So I thought, you know what, let's go with the Pacific and then 414 because I I wasn't sure if I wanted to use my actual name or even my first name, which is Mike. But I knew I wanted to have my channel stand out, and with your channel name, it definitely does stand out as Tommy and the Guinea Pig Collective.
well, it definitely takes up a lot of real estate in the chat when it's typed out. So you can't miss that name.
Tell me about it.
No, but you've had me on your channel a few times. We've had a discussion, of course, about Transformers, because that's one of the things you and I, are big fans of. And we've been big fans of the franchise since we were kids. But, also, looking at some of your videos too of the different items that you've reviewed, like recently you have Man at Arms here. And of course, Voltron. You reviewed the crossover between Transformers and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles with Turtle Van, and of course, several other toys, not just from our childhood, but different collectibles. And what got you into collecting these different figurines and specialty figures in some cases?
Well, a lot of that, most of it starts, from your childhood. You get a few things here and there. So my parents weren't well off, but every time that they got something for me, I was so appreciative of it, and I would take care of it, and I kind of held on to them. There was a few things I got stupid when I was 15. You go through that phase, like I don't need some of these things, and I sold off my entire original Kenner Star Wars toy collection,
Oh.
along with some of the old metal figurines. I had a diecast Enterprise that actually had a dial on the top that was the bridge, and when you spun this diecast dial around, they would shoot these little yellow plastic pucks out through the
Mm-hmm.
center of the ship.
Hmm.
All that stuff I sold like an idiot and regretted it later on. But the stuff that I did still have, it was like, man, these are like treasured items at this point. And now sometimes, these figures mean something by way of my original Jazz that I had that unfortunately was stolen years ago. That was like the first full size Transformer I'd received, because up to that point, my mother was just buying me the smaller ones. And
Hmm.
there was something before that. But the first full size fully labeled box transformer I got was Jazz from one of my aunts, who's long
Mm.
since passed now. But yeah, I always loved that figure, and it's that love of that franchise when I was younger. It kept going back over the years. I mean, sure, there were certain cartoons and stuff like that I couldn't stand. I didn't watch them, but my love for the original figures and some of the other stuff that was coming out never really diminished. And
Hmm.
it's the same thing with a lot of these other franchises that I grew up with. Some of the other ones are horror related too, because I like some older horror movies, band stuff like Eddie from Iron Maiden. So I mean, it almost comes off as dyslexic with with different figures that I review on my channel, just because I have such a love for so many different franchises, and it's something about
Hmm.
capturing a little piece of those franchises that you enjoyed so much in a format that could just sit right in front of you. It's like some people get figurines, some people get statues. I love these
Mm-hmm.
figures. So,
I mean, especially when you look at some of the figures that they come out with now and all the points of articulation that a lot of them have. Even some of the Transformer figures have more articulation than any of the G1 Transformers that you and I both grew up with.
oh, without a doubt, without a doubt. I mean, well, even now they're revamping some of those with the Missing Link series.
Hmm.
So you're getting a fully articulated G1 Optimus Prime. Bumblebee Cliff Jumper is the one I really want to get for obvious reasons, because we had
Yeah.
a pig named Cliff Jumper that did all the Transformer reviews, who sadly is gone too as well. But
Mm.
and they're doing Sunstreaker, which was the last one they said that was coming out, and they're doing a white version of him as well. So I mean, this stuff never ends, because they always wind up going back to that stuff too, like the
Hmm.
stuff that really sold well, the stuff that first captured everybody's imagination, and it never gets stale. I mean, they're doing the same thing with other franchises that maybe I didn't collect. I knew they were out there, and maybe I watched some of the cartoons. I just didn't have the figures, like Mask. They're doing a revamp of Mask, and sometime this year they're coming out with new figures.
Yeah,
Really?
I saw that as part of the news from this past weekend's New York Toy Fair, and looking at them, if you didn't know, you would swear they were the original figures.
Well,
Because
they
I,
wanted to capture the original figures, Mike, but just add a little bit more articulation, or maybe
Mhm.
a few more points of movability on the vehicles and everything. So they wanted to capture the essence, and Mattel had done that with their Masters of the Universe Origins line. So it was the same thing. You're getting essentially, not always perfect, but you're essentially getting the same figures that came out back in the 80s, but now you're getting them with more points of articulation. A lot of these companies are waking up to this, like, hey, we can re-release his original stuff, more points of articulation, and we could really bring in the old school fans while capturing some of the newer fans that love the posability in some of these figures, but
Hmm.
would love to see a classic figure like that, but not just, how they were, like you said, a lot of them were kind of static. So
Yeah,
they're doing it right, a lot of these companies.
they are, and I know you've said a few things about Hasbro. I mean, I think we both have our grievances with Hasbro and the way they're going about certain things, especially with Transformers. It seems like they limit in certain areas which figures actually hit stores in your areas, because I'm sure there have been plenty of figures that you have wanted to purchase in person in a store, but you have either had to go online or some other route to get them.
Yeah, and that's one of the things. Like when you wind up becoming a collector, and especially if you wind up getting a collection as ridiculously huge as the one I have, where I will have a whole room filled with totes because I have no space on the walls to put all this stuff anyway to begin with. But I have a lot of them in those big, giant yellow and black totes you get from like the hardware places like a Home Depot, Lowe's, or something. And
Hmm.
I literally, the room is filled, stacked all the way up to the ceiling with all these figures that I have, whether they're new ones or old ones. God help me. Just of the newer series of Transformers, going back to the Siege line, the War for
Yep.
Cybertron line, just going back to that, I think I have no less than probably seven or eight crates of these 28-gallon crates filled with figures at this point, and that's just the newer stuff. That doesn't even count like Power of the Primes or Titans Return or any of the lines before that. So yeah, but it's part of going out, and it's the hunt aspect of being a
Yep.
collector.
Yep.
There's
Yep.
nothing more than going out and hunting these things down. Like when I was a kid, we used to go to a few different stores, go to like KB Toys. Back in my day, they had a Kitty City around, so we'd go to Kitty City. If Kitty City didn't happen, we go to Toys R Us. Toys R Us didn't happen, we go check out KB. So we had a bunch of different options. It was all about hopping around
Hmm.
these different stores to try to find the figures that you want. Like back in the day, like trying to collect the entire Devastator, because you had to purchase those individually, unless I think there was like a Comic Con or something like that where they might have offered a box set or something. But otherwise, you had to purchase these individually. So you had to go out to all these different stores and try to get all these things individually and complete the whole damn set. I was lucky enough to do it just because I had that many different toy stores in the area I
Hmm.
was able to go to. So I mean, yeah, it's the hunt for them for sure. I mean, even doing short videos on toy hunts, just seeing what's out there, and sometimes posting it on my channel. Like that shit. I mean, I love that shit, and it's really sad to see some of these stores now. They just don't carry the type of inventory that you would expect them to carry.
Yep. Well, it's even like finding that Optimus Prime that I showed you the picture of. That's supposed to be an homage to G1 Optimus Prime, and I was in the store. I always go down the Transformer aisle just to see if there's any new Transformers that I might want to pick up. And of course, right now you see a whole lot of Bumblebee, and I do mean a whole lot of Bumblebee. But I was looking at it, and it was the only one. I don't know if I showed it to Bear, but I'll go ahead and
Okay.
show it. Hold on one second. I don't know if it's actually going to show up. I might have to do some adjustments, and then I'll try showing it again. But anyways, I saw it and I'm all right. I'm grabbing that from my collection. I mean,
I'm sorry. Somebody had knocked on the door and it got kind of noisy, so I muted for a second.
No worries.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that I've showed off in my collections, a lot of the same ones that you have, and I've kind of like hinted my problems with some of the things with Hasbro and everything like that, but that doesn't diminish some of the quality that they put into a lot of these figurines. So a lot of these toys are just amazing. So I would never want to discourage anybody from getting something that they like, though. I will say this though, but when it comes to the reviews that I give, I am brutally honest about it. I don't care how much I enjoy certain aspects of the figures, like that Studio Series 86 Optimus Prime. that thing had a ton of issues. The leg joints were terrible on it. They were sloppy and floppy after transforming it a few times. They didn't have any of the ratcheting joints that the Grimlock and Slag and Sludge had early on. Swoop had none, and his joints were loose too. But taking that aside, they're still putting out some incredible stuff. There's a lot of figures I still wish that I could get. It's just whether it's financial problems or it's whether it's getting out to these stores and being able to find them. That's been the issue. Right now, it's finances. So
Yeah. Trying to get it to show up, but it's not really wanting to show up too well on camera. So tell
yeah,
you what, I'll just take a picture of it.
The Legacy United Optimus Prime.
Yeah.
I could tell just by the box. Just seen enough of the box and knew exactly what it was. Yeah, I mean, that's another one. So they did that as a more affordable price range for what they, the missing link one, which is like 100 and over 120, I think, or something like that for that one.
Yeah, it is.
I'm not sure if that one has diecast and I've heard conflicting reports that it did, and I heard somebody else tried to say it didn't, so I'm not 100% sure. Never had one in my hands, but that was the more affordable version for everybody else who wanted to get it. And I know everybody had the same gripe. Well, he's undersized compared to the rest of the figures. Yeah, well, he's not really supposed to be in scale with the rest of the figures since it's just a representation of the G1 toy. But it was one of the ones that I was looking for. Just I wouldn't mind having another Prime like that. Could not find it anywhere. Like whether they were ever put out or whether the scalpers came and freaking hoarded them all, no clue. But it does happen a lot.
It does, and I was just looking, and then I happened to look up on the peg hook. I'm all, wait a minute, that's the Optimus that everybody's been talking about lately. So I picked it up, and of course, like you just said, people were saying it does have diecast, it doesn't have diecast. I can confirm that it's completely all plastic.
Oh, I was talking about the missing link one.
The missing link, I've heard it's diecast like the original.
But you know how reports, some people will be like, "Oh, it didn't," and they might be wrong because maybe they misunderstood the question. But yeah, I know that one's all plastic. How's the movement? Or you didn't get it out of the box yet?
I haven't even taken it out of the box yet.
Oh, that would have been day one for me. Unless, I can't even say that it's not always true, because one of the things I always do on most of my reviews is very rarely do I take one out ahead of the review. So usually when I get a new figure within a few days, I'm filming it for a review because I want to actually get like an initial reaction when I first get it out of the box.
Yep.
As opposed to one where I'm sitting there playing with it for a while, messing with it, and then if I see something later on, I'll do like an addendum on the video, like, oh well, there's this and I missed that. But usually it's gut reaction with a lot of these things. I want to get that right out of the box. Am I absolutely ecstatic for purchasing this thing, or do I feel a little bit let down? And I think that's the way you always got to go about these reviews. And the one thing that drives me crazy about other reviewers when they're giving a completely dishonest review and they're just doing it because they've gotten free merchandise from these companies to be able to give a good review to push sales. Yeah. I hate that shit.
Yeah, I mean, just be honest with us. What are the good things about it? What are the bad things about it? And, if there's any misgivings about it, tell us. That's all we're asking for. And the reason why I haven't taken this particular Optimus out of the box is because he's the only one I've been able to find so far. So, if I'm able to find another one, I will take that one out of the box and, look at everything from articulation to durability. And
I got to ask you, Mike, with that real quick.
Does that mean you follow the rule of two?
Depending on the figure, yes. Yes, I do.
A lot of people swear by that rule. They got to have two. One in the box and then one to play with. But a lot of times with me, if it's stuff that I really enjoy, I know I'm going to be taking it out of the box and messing with it at some point, even if it takes a while. I mean, there was a spree there where I had a lot of extra disposable money where I was able to buy a slew of figures, and I would not be able to review them all because I bought so many, I could only do so many reviews at once. So some of them got packed away. And I'm just getting around now to digging out some of the older ones and finally getting to those reviews.
Well, it's like with the Studio Series Optimus Prime, which my sister gave to me for Christmas. I knew I was going to take that sucker out of the box. But I was smart not to get rid of the box. I try to hold on to the boxes now as opposed to just throwing them away and displaying the figures like I used to.
And see, I've always been the weirdo. I always kept all the boxes. Even in my old G1s, I kept everything. All the boxes, even the used sticker sheets, I kept in the boxes. If it was a blister card, I kept the blister and the bubble because I would only open it so far so I could keep the bubble on the cardboard. I kept all that stuff back then. And yeah, unfortunately, somebody did swipe them all from me. And God only knows how many thousands of dollars those things are all worth now with all their original packaging. But whew.
Hmm. I mean, you see where people will put original G1 figures on eBay, and the prices that they're asking for them, and some of the sets are still complete. They've never been opened. Other sets, you get what's available there, but they're still asking for a lot of money. You ever run into any sort of temptation where you thought, you know what, I'm gonna buy this figure on eBay?
There was only one figure. And it's kind of like for G1 collecting fans, it's kind of like the holy grail of figures to find. And one guy did have it on a card, but it was like well outside my price range. But if I would have had the money, I would have been very tempted to get him, and that would have been what was called Bumble Jumper, or just as later on, it was just Bumper.
Mhm.
So he was the little Mazda that was never officially released in Transformers, but a few from Takar slipped through, and they wound up getting packaged on Bumblebee and Cliffjumper cards. So if you find them, it's like it's a real oddity to find them. So as far as like paying more than I ever should, whether it's loose or carded, that would probably be the one figure. If I had the extra money to get it, and it was something that I could nab with the money I had, he would definitely be one of them. Always wanted to get that one.
I can see why. I mean, one of the ones I would love to have, but again, this was one of those things where you had to send him points in order to get him, would be Reflector.
Hmm. I have parts of Reflector. So one of the things I used to do years ago is I would buy a lot of broken lots of Transformers, and then I would repair them.
Hmm.
Apparently I got nothing better to do with my life. Been messed up for a while with injuries and shit like that. So yeah, I would just buy these extra lots and just fix them all up, use all original parts because I'd have enough different parts to be able to pick and choose the best parts and rebuild robots. Some I kept, other ones I was selling because I had so many damn parts. So one I did have a bunch of parts for, but not enough to complete was the reflector set. So I'm
Hmm.
not 100% sure if it was the original mail away or if it was the pre-mail away from Takara with their micro change line though, because
Yeah.
some of the stampings on their back are a little scratched up and kind of hard to read. So because
Yeah.
a lot of them they were just carried over from Diaclone and microchange.
And that's the thing. People don't realize is that, some of these Transformer figures were previously released and it wasn't under the Transformers brand here in the United States.
There was at one point Japan wanted to invade the U.S. market, and they brought a few select figures over under the name Diacron, and they tried to sell them in here in the U.S. and they did poorly. It was like a couple of years or so before it was rebranded as Transformers with the partnership between Hasbro and Takara. They tried it and it failed miserably. But I've recently gotten to a conversation with a few people on X, maybe about a month or so ago, tops, and they did not understand why the Ironhide figure looked the way that he did. And I had to explain to these people because nobody else was coming up with, with a real answer. They were given the normal, they were being cheap and Hasbro was being cheap. I'm like, no, it wasn't Hasbro, it was
No, it's
Takara.
a Microman line that it came
And
from.
yeah, and I had to explain to them. I said, look, these original figures that as Transformers, they all had little cockpit or opening areas where you put these little Diaclone figures in there. And there was a reason for it. All those vehicles, all those cars, all those characters that became Optimus Prime and Ironhide and all that, they were mech suits. That's why Ironhide just has a seat. That's why, the one they redid as Ratchet's the ambulance is just a seat because they were mech suits, every last one of them.
Mm-hmm.
And once I told a few people that, they were like, "Oh wow, I never knew that. That makes a lot of sense." Yeah, well, I mean, some of these other experts you're talking about should know that stuff, and that kind of rolls back around what I started with before Transformers.
Mm-hmm.
So my dad used to take me out to the US Route One indoor flea market, which Kevin Smith had in Mallrats. So the outside of the shot of the place is exactly what it looked like. The inside obviously didn't look anything like they had in the movie. But when I used to go there as a kid, there was actually people from Japan that were selling figures in there for micro change, for
Mm-hmm.
Diaclone. Some of the early stuff, like before Mattel, was like fully in stores, they had the Go Lion robots sitting there. They had all this cool shit in there from over in Japan, and I bought the early version of Soundwave, which was Cassette Man. Ravage was just Jaguar. Um, Laserbeak was just Condor, and I think the two what became Rumble and Frenzy were just listed as micros. I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's all they were listed as. But I mean, the early Megatrons before he was the Walter P38 uh, uncle, U dot
Mm-hmm.
N dot, yeah. Before he was that, they had an early version of him where they had a couple different colors. Like one was like brown, and another one was black and gray. So they had a few different colors before they wound up going to, I think it was like 13 or 14 when he became chromed. And then he got the gun barrel silencer extension and the stock and everything like that, and became what would become Megatron. The only difference between the old Takara Diaclone one was that gun actually fired. So even on your G1 Megatron, you could hear that click in the trigger. It's because
Yep.
originally it had a firing mechanism in there to shoot little plastic bullets out. And then the figure came with like little stand up like robots that you would shoot down. And he also came with a big chromed out sword.
Yes, you did. And before we continue on, I do want to say hello to everybody who's in the chat at the moment. Starting with the long-suffering Miss Tech. She's always keeping an eye on Baron. You have to keep an eye on Baron, making sure he's behaving.
Oh, of course she does.
And I also want to say hello to Lady Mist. Good to see you.
Hello, hello, hello.
Jet Sparks. Good to see you as well.
Do as Megatron commands.
We also have DJ Ronnie G.
Nerd!
What up, Turtle Man?
And let's
Turtles
see.
versus guinea pigs someday.
We also have PJ from Morville Nation. Good to see you, PJ.
What's up, PJ?
PJ!
Tree Rock Creations.
Tree Rock.
And let's see. We also have the Padawannabe here as well.
What's going on?
He has to be here, doesn't he? Patty, I wanna be. There we go. How's that? That's pretty good, I thought.
But yes, Tommy, I mean, with all these pre-Transformers, I mean, you could even say pre-GoBots too, because they came from Japan as well. There is a lot of history to the brand even before it became what it's known now.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, and you look back at some of these toy companies; they've had partnerships with other companies. Like Takara had a partnership with another American company before Hasbro. They had a partnership with Mego.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so they had brought Micromen over to the States as Micronauts. And that's where most American kids remember that. They remember as the Micronauts, not the Micromen. So, interesting thing also is that they had a partnership with Hasbro as well. So Hasbro had imported their GI Joe line over to Takara in Japan because they wanted to break into the figure market. Because before that, they just made like dolls and pool toys and shit like that. and they brought in the GI Joes and they tried selling them in Japan. They didn't work out very well. Maybe not a smart move right after the war to like bring in GI Joe, the American fighting hero. Yeah, I don't know if that was a smart move to guard. So then they
No.
take those figures and they repurpose them by putting like superhero outfits, not Superman, but superhero type outfits on them, maybe doing different head sculpts and everything like that. They found some success with that. Then they wound up going over to what they called the Henshin Cyborg line, which was the precursor to Microman. So it was the same
Mhm.
type of idea, clear plastic skin that you could see through with gears and everything inside. And these guys had like detachable arms where you put guns and everything on them and everything. Uh, but the price was too much because right around then when they had the oil crisis and the cost for making all these big plastic figures with all these attachments too much. And then they decided, let's shrink them down. And then they created Microman. And of course, Microman leads into a lot of the other stuff with Microchange, Diaclone, and everything like that. And like some of the other companies that were doing the same thing, where you had Bondi doing the Machine Men when they part
Mhm.
Tonka. You also had some of the other companies that were making stuff like the Valkyrie jets, which Bondi wound up buying them out too. That was the Macross title. I forget the company that was. I think it was Takatuku Toys that was doing them. They bought them out, and they bought everything out that had anything to do with Macross and their Valkyrie jets. So
Hmm.
that's why Japan had never seen Jetfire released.
Mhm. And there's so much legal trouble with using Jetfire too, and why you only saw limited appearances of the character known as Skyfire in the cartoon, and of course when they started selling the toy, like you mentioned, you didn't see that toy in Japan, and it, you know there there's history there for people who want to actually look it up that tells you a whole heck of a lot of things that went on even before you know it became what we all know now as Transformers.
Mhm.
There's tons of cool information, and I've released videos, a few videos here and there on some of the origins of some of these figures, like Shockwave. Shockwave, man, everybody loves
Mhm.
Shockwave. Man, Hasbro did a killer job making Shockwave. Hasbro didn't create it.
No.
A little Korean toy company called Toyco did. That's why you seen it in Radio Shack. It was the exact same toy. It wasn't a knockoff. It was from the same direct company. They were just producing
Mhm.
it for all these different companies, and Radio Shack Tandy happened to be one of them.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if you couldn't find Shockwave under the Transformers brand, go to your local Radio Shack at the time. If they had the figure in stock, well, guess what? You have Shockwave, but he's not named Shockwave.
Yeah, he was like Galactic Man for Radio
Mhm.
Shack, and he was also Astro Magnum directly from Toyco and through a few other subsidies like Gigi and a few of the other ones like Joustra and stuff like that. They used the Astro Magnum. Yeah, Panda Wannabe remembers that. I remember that. The names were different. Jaguar, Condor, and Micros. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, heck, even with the original Blaster toy, there was a cassette that you can put into him and, plug in earbuds and actually hear what's on this little micro cassette.
Well, the very earliest blaster that they did, and it's kind of crazy that they did him like right after they did what would become Soundwave, the cassette man. The earliest one was actually an AM/FM radio.
Hmm.
And again, it's history that maybe not a lot of people even know about.
No, there's a lot there that people either they don't know about it or they've forgotten about it, or maybe even because some of this stuff was Japanese exclusives. Like there's all kinds of stuff from Microchange that just never made it to America. One of them did make it in Japan though later on. So there was one called the Browning, was like a little like a 45 style automatic gun, a
Hmm.
little smaller than Megatron. Same thing, he shot pellets and everything like that. But yeah, this little micro change figure never made it into Transformers, but he did make it into Takara's version, like during the Godmaster run. He
Yes.
shows up there as Browning.
And that's the thing that I wanted to ask you too. Have you ever watched any of the Japanese exclusive series?
That I have not done. I mean, it's one of those things now you could find it a lot easier than you could back then. But I just, yeah, it's like what are all the things that I'm usually, because on average, and I'm slacking this week because everything going on with my guinea pig and everything, but usually it takes me 3 days to prepare for a toy stream. So, like, downtime in between to sit around and try to watch that stuff on the computer is kind of limited just because I spend so much time sitting at the computer. And if you have problems with your back, you understand it's no fun sitting at the computer for, a half a day trying to do these things like research stuff and then, for toys and everything like that. Like if I'm a lot of stuff I do with the older stuff, I got to research to see if I can find like really good commercials and everything like that that just add like a little bit more pop to everything I'm presenting during the shows. Or if I
Mhm.
want to get pictures, it takes time for me to do all that, especially with the type of internet I have, which is horrendously bad, slower than a turtle, DJ, slower than a turtle. But
What?
yeah, it takes a lot of time and it takes a lot out of you doing that stuff. So yeah, like having that spare time to sit there and start watching those shows because I know me, it's one of those type of shows that once I get into them, I won't stop and I'll try to watch it all the way through and that's probably why I haven't started because I'm gonna kill myself. Vinny, like, where are you for the toy stream, Tommy? I can't make it. I can't crawl back up to the computer.
Sorry, Vinny. I'm stuck watching Master Force or Headmasters or Victory.
I'm watching the ceiling, Vinny. That's all I can do right now. I think it's exciting though. Like I said earlier, with a lot of stuff that they're re-releasing, because I also seen they're
Mhm.
doing a lot of like Gundam figures and stuff like that. The last time I
Yeah,
was out,
yeah.
I think it's really exciting for fans, even for stuff that I didn't collect. I think it's exciting for all these fans starting to get stuff that they love and getting them modernized correctly. And it's not to say that every toy company does it. Hasbro apparently has some people that are on the spectrum working there making some really, really poor decisions with some of these figures. And then you
Yeah.
have other people what I swear that they must have just graduated from MIT. They've done such an amazing job. Like, geez, this is way above your pay grade, sir. This is amazing work. And then you get the next one, it looks like it's paper mache. I don't get it. A lot of weirdness going on with a lot of these companies, but I heard this through the grapevine. Don't know if it's 100% true, but what I've heard is Hasbro is about to step away from making toys.
Yeah, yeah. We had actually read a story a couple months ago where the head of Hasbro, Cox, yeah, that is his last name, folks. I'm not making a
COX?
joke, but he is actually saying how Hasbro is going to go more into the video game type of market and go with toys. That's why they now license Power Rangers, for example, to Playmates, so Playmates can make the toys. And do you think they'll ever do that with Transformers since they want to step away from making toys in general? Give Transformers to another company
Anything
to
is
make.
possible. Anything is possible at this point. Hasbro is, for all the things that they still do right, they do so much wrong in the way they produce some of these figures that upset certain collectors. That I know I have thrown a fit over a few of the figures that I bought that were just absolutely horrendous train wrecks. But also the pricing. Hasbro has really, really outdone themselves by overpricing on a lot of things because there really is no reason for some of the exorbitant prices that a lot of these toys actually have, the ticket prices on them. And that's been a complaint for some of the stores because I've talked to some of the people that do stocking and they said, yeah, we're not carrying a lot of the bigger items. They're just too costly.
Hmm.
And they take up a lot of shelf space. That's one thing any store hates with their toy aisles. They hate large items taking up space on the shelves if they're not moving. And it was one of the reasons why older toy franchises like Brave Star and everything, Sectors, that's why they failed in toy stores, because they took up too much real estate and the toy stores didn't like it because they weren't moving. Where a lot
Mm-hmm.
of the smaller figures like He-Man, Turtles, especially Kenner Star Wars figures, they didn't take up a lot of real estate and they were moving quick. So yeah,
Yeah,
that's what we want. That's what we want, you know?
absolutely. I mean, I remember, in the late 80s, excuse me, late 80s, going into the 90s, especially with Ninja Turtles, you know, how they would have a good selection of figures, but those figures were selling. Just like when Playmates brought out the next generation figures
Hmm.
and they were selling. It's because of their size. They weren't big and bulky like some toys,
Oh,
and
right
and
around that
having
same time, Mike,
having.
right around that same time, remember what else became big? Talking about shrinking down the packaging.
Hmm.
Micromasters.
Yeah.
All the micro toys that they were selling too for the
Hmm.
cars and everything, like all those things, they became a big hit. Why? Because they were smaller, easier to collect. You could buy more of them for your kid because the cost price was a little bit more efficient for most parents too.
Yeah, even Action Masters. Say what you will about the line, but Action Masters were smaller than your typical Transformer. It wasn't like, you had Metroplex, for example, taking a store shelf, or, even the USS Flag for G.I. Joe
Hmm.
Hmm.
taking up the shelf. And it's good to see Kilted Cage in here.
What's going on?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, Sectors was an amazing looking line. I will give them that. I never had a chance to have one of those myself. Once again, a limited budget on my parents, but so they would be a little more picky and choosy about the things that they bought me. But I remember seeing those, man. Sectors. Oh God, uh, Silverhawks, another
Hmm.
amazing looking line that they had out there. They had so many different like lines that were just amazing looking. Supernaturals was another crazy line that was out. My brother had a few of them. Brave Star was, and I know a lot of people may not know Brave Star, but the figures themselves were just amazing. Like they were even
Centurions.
they were even more detailed and better looking and larger, by the way, than the Thundercats figures were. And that's not to take anything away from Thundercats. Thundercats were awesome for what they were when they came out back in the day, but they did not have the detail that these big giant Brave Star figures had.
Hmm.
But yeah, and even Centurions. They were detailed figures and more articulated than most toys you would get back in the 80s.
Now here's a crazy one. So with a lot of that articulation, if you look at the old Micromen figures, tons of articulation there.
Hmm.
You go back even further. Go back to 1975. So I have this figure. He's called Maximilian. He's called Max, the Maximilian Man. This thing had bending elbows. Now, granted, they didn't turn out or anything. They just kind of turned upwards, but it had a move at the shoulder to move the arm up. It had a bend at the elbow. It had a turn at the wrist. It had a ball joint in the head for the head and neck. Then it had a waist turn. It had hip, knee, and it had ankle, just up and down pivot on the foot. I did a video on him a long time ago. That thing had a lot more posability than a lot of the figures that wound up coming out in the early 80s, late 70s, early 80s, like where you see Battlestar Galactica and Kenner Star Wars and everything, where 5 points of articulation. This thing had tons more. A lot of these companies could have started doing that back then, but they chose not to save money on the molding.
Hmm. Let's face it, we were lucky to get the articulation that we got out of the original 3.5-inch GI Joe figures.
Yeah, and that was a redesigned step up too. And basically, it was the same thing with GI Joe relaunch with Microman. So when they sent those figures over and they shrunk them down to Microman, they like looking at that and they're like, "Hey, why don't we shrink GI Joe down, make them more affordable while trying to keep the same amount of posability? Is there anything to kind of base this off?" Well, Takara's doing Microman.
Hmm.
Let's do something similar to what they're doing. And that's what they did. And then, of course, later on, they added a little bit more articulation in those things when they put the turn up at the bicep and stuff like that. Um, but yeah, like really amazing stuff that they were doing early on. I mean, even if you remember the early Joes didn't have the head tilt because they put that
No, they
ball in
didn't.
there. They just their heads just turned side to side. The original ones, because I had a few of them. I had the Vamp with I think it was clutch, and then the laser big laser artillery piece with I always forget that guy's name. I forget if it was Zap or it was the other one, but it was a recolor of it that they used in the main line too. And then I had the Ram, which was the motorcycle with the Gatling gun on sidecar.
Mhm.
So but yeah, those early Joes, yeah, just neck movement. They had the arms, and they started adding more to those. I mean, they were picking up what a lot of these other companies were doing early on. But then we get a step backwards by the time you start seeing stuff like Toy Biz, like early Toy Biz stuff that had almost zero articulation. And then they slowly started adding more articulation into the figures. Like it's kind of crazy to see the genesis of these things where they go forward, then they go backwards, then they go forwards again.
Yeah, you know what's also interesting? At least I found this interesting as I looked into the history of the Ninja Turtle figures. How
Hmm.
they, contacted one of the guys who used to work at Mattel and worked on the Masters of the Universe. I can't remember his name at the top of my head right now, but he used to work on the Masters of the Universe line, and he said, "Well, why don't you do something like we did for Masters of the Universe for the figures?" Because Playmates was having trouble with the mold
Well,
at first.
let's not forget this was also their first foray into the action figure market as well. Because before
Hmm.
that, they were all about dolls.
Yeah, that's true.
But I mean, if you see a winning strategy right there, and you know you're doing a brand new line, is based on a comic book. Of course, there's always a story where Playmates wouldn't even go into full scale production until after the cartoon was out. So they had to
Hmm.
put the cartoon out first. But if you got a winning strategy and or you see a winning strategy, and you want to kind of like take some of the finer points without that, without being a direct rip off, why not if it's working? And that's
Hmm.
why things like the early Masters of the Universe stood out. It's why Turtles stood out, because they didn't look like the ordinary, you know I don't want to say formless, but no definition to the characters. Like even Thundercats, to a degree, even though some of the characters looked like they had some muscle to them, there was no definition to any of those figures.
No, there wasn't. I mean, I can remember my original Lino, for example, didn't
Hmm.
really have any definition to him. Momra, Panthro. Baron, did you have anything that you'd like to ask Tommy?
No, I'm just enjoying listening to all the history here because there's a lot of stuff I do not know.
There's a
Oh,
lot of
I know.
stuff that I know, and the wife accuses me having a lot of useless knowledge that nobody wants to hear. And I said, I know
Oh,
somebody wants to hear it. Damn it!
well, the wife says the same thing about me too. But, oh, I know. Do you like gladiator movies? There
Timmy, have you ever been in a Turkish bath?
we go. Turkish person. Have you ever seen a grown man naked?
Well, I'll just ask anybody in Hollywood; they'll give you that answer.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I did see a few weeks ago. I don't know if it's still up on their site. I could check as I'm talking here, but I did see where the studio series Ultra Magnus, which was something you and I had talked about one time, was up for pre-order.
Oh yeah, yeah. So Vinny and I talked about that a number of weeks ago. They did a re-release of it. They also did a re-release of Beachcomber. So
Hmm.
there were a couple of the figures that a lot of people missed the first time around. But what pisses me off, and then they tried to say, "Oh well, we don't have any specifications on the molds. We don't keep them." Like, yeah, give me a break. You don't think that the manufacturer keeps these molds? Get out of here. That's not the way it works. They had those molds, but there were some sites that were actually selling Ultra Magnus at a discounted price, and I did not have the money to get it, and I was like furious. They had a markdown on this one toy ordering site for $41. Then Hasbro drops the news that we're re-releasing Ultra Magnus at $89. You couldn't do people a favor and maybe bring that price down. It's not like you had to go back to the drawing board and completely redesign it. You had everything you needed right there. Just run back into production with it, and you charge the same price that it originally came out for. Yeah, rotten bastards. But as soon as they released that Toy Store jacked that number back up to 89. I'm like, hey, you son of a bitches, missed out on that
Well,
freaking deal.
those
Yeah.
Fargan and ISOs.
Yeah, I had to knock down that wall, knock down that wall, and knock down that fucking wall. Oh boy, was I mad. Because he's one of the few that I'm missing out of my 86 Studio Series collection. I have every single other one, even one that technically should be in the Studio Series collection, but isn't because he was an exclusive. So the Pit of Judgment set with the Quintesson, the Bailiff, the Guard, and the little mini Kranix figure and a tiny Sharkticon. And it comes in almost like a diorama set in the box. It's a pretty huge box, but it's not. It's still considered the War for Cybertron trilogy of figures, even though it's an '86 Studio Series inspired set. But I have that. So Ultra Magnus, I don't have. I don't have the revamped color version of the Galvatron, and I don't have Steeljaw. That's it. I have all the rest of them.
Yeah, last year I actually found RC, and I'm glad I did because they haven't gotten her back in stock since I bought her at the store.
Shit, you should have reached out to me. I had extra stuff for her.
Now he knows.
But I mean, you look at Studio Series Optimus, Studio Series Ultra Magnus, and like you said with Optimus, if you transform him too much, then he's going to get loose. But you look at those figures, and yes, it's still a high price at $89, $90, and if you have to order it from Big Bad Toy Store, you have to count shipping and handling, but it's definitely better than paying $400 or $500, depending on where you're looking, for a masterpiece version of Prime or
Big
even
Bad Toy
Magnus.
Store used to have something where if you ordered over 50, they would give you
Mhm.
free shipping. They used to. I don't know if they still do, but they used to at one time.
I don't know. I haven't ordered anything from them in a while, so I'd have to place a mock order just to see what happens. And
Yeah, when these molds are done right, and one of the ones I say they definitely did right from Studio Series 86 was me, Grimlock. Oh man, what an amazing figure. And they've redone that figure something like 4 times now.
Mhm.
Yeah, they've it's something like 3 or 4 times. I want to say it's 4 times because it is 4 times because they did the original 86 Studio, then they did the G2 unreleased color version from Takara because Takara was going to do a G2 Grimlock in like a yellow and what was it, yellow and blue, I think it was tiger
Mhm.
stripe color, which I picked that one up. Then they did the comic book version of Grimlock, which was slightly changed in color, and then they re-released that same mold again as a Megatron supposed to be Godzilla, which I thought looked absolutely horrendous. Didn't look anything like Godzilla, but
Yeah, I saw that. I said, I'm not spending money on that figure. Sorry.
no, that
Eh,
was definitely a big pass.
Yeah. And I'll be honest with you, Tommy, and I'm sure you get this way too. You see some figures that you look at them in pictures like this, and you go, "No, I'm not wasting money on that one."
This is one though that I know is a really decent figure, just because Vinny was
Mhm.
fortunate enough to have a friend to send him one, and he reviewed it. And I was actually pretty amazed with some of the stuff that was in this one, like especially like detachable limbs, so you can kind of
Mhm.
recreate the scene in the movie with his limbs blown off. I
Yeah,
thought that was really smart.
yeah. I'm not saying I don't want this figure. I do want this figure to add to my collection because Ultra Magnus has always been one of my favorite molds. It didn't matter that it was a reuse of Optimus as a car carrier, which they had that in the Diaclone line in Japan.
Yep, a battle convoy. He was called Armored Battle Convoy.
Yeah, I've just always liked the look of the character.
It's definitely a cool figure. I have a few of the original ones that I'm piecing back together because, well, some of these things didn't survive over the years. But I've got a couple back there. A few parts broken that I'm replacing and everything slowly to have a complete Ultra Magnus, and I think I might even have an extra set somewhere of them. But really, really nice figure, even back in the day. Granted, there was no real articulation other than the arms and everything, but still, it was an interesting concept that they wound up
Mhm.
reusing later on with like Power Master Optimus Prime. But the price tag, to quote Watto there, it's all about the money.
And Kilty Cajun has a question for us. How do we feel about the Blokes figs? I really haven't taken a look at any of them.
I don't recall what the blokes figures are offhand.
I can look it up real quick.
Yeah, please.
I'm just glad good old Phil McCracken's here because he's such a big GoBot fan. I don't think he want to hear all this talk about Transformers.
I've done a few discussions about GoBots as well. I collected both when I was a kid. And I know a lot of people like really look down on them, but those figures were actually pretty well made. I know people said they're cheap, but I was looking it over. If you look over percentage wise, how much diecast was in a GoBot compared to most of the Transformers, there was actually more diecast in a GoBot than there was a lot of Transformers. It's absolutely
Hmm.
insane,
Hmm.
especially with the big one, Optimus Prime. No, he didn't have much diecast really. Everybody swears that figure was like all full of diecast. He had diecast in his toes and he had diecast in the front of the cab where it flipped down. That was
Yeah,
it.
that was it. That was it.
And anybody who's had one of those G1 Optimus Prime knows if you didn't transform correctly and pull the springs on his legs outwards when you're flipping them up, the gears on those legs stripped out really quick.
Oh yeah. Heck, I had it happen to me. I was over at a friend's house one time, and he had hardwooded floors. So we're playing with my Transformers and his Transformers. Optimus falls off his bed, and it broke his right arm.
Ah,
Hmm.
So let me go ahead and add this. But these are the Blokes figures. Let me zoom in on a picture here, and then I'll go ahead and share the screen. Let's make that bigger. Give me a second to make this bigger so everybody can see a little better before I share it. There we go.
okay. The little blind box ones.
Hmm.
Well, at least some of them are. That one doesn't look like it is.
No. And there you see Optimus and Megatron.
They're interesting. It's not, and this is just me personally. It's something that I would never buy because if I want to buy Transformers, unless I'm buying like a mini figurine, like the back in the day, remember they came with little like Target figures with some of the Transformers.
Hmm.
So they were solid color, like red and purple and stuff like that. And they were just little solid figures that the Transformers itself came with. Unless they're like that, unless he transforms into a truck or unless they transform into something, it's not something I would usually buy. It's kind of like the Red series that they had out, where they
Yeah.
were very cartoon accurate and they had some good posability, exchangeable hands, this, that, and the other thing. It's not something I'm into because I like my Transformers to transform.
Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that at all. I mean, that was some of the grievances with Action Masters.
Yep.
Yes, some of the base is transformed, but if we're going to buy a character like Prowl or Optimus or Starscream, then we want them to actually transform.
Panda Wannabe, no. Padawan. No, it doesn't really bother me that they change the transformation aspects. I think it's really cool when they can incorporate that. So one of the few figures that they've done recently was from United Legacy. They did a Gears figure, and I'm standing on this hill. I think it is one of the best figures that they've put out in probably the past 3 years as far as Transformers. This thing looks like Gears, like the original one. It transforms very similarly to the original figure. And he just looks, he's got tons of articulation in him. I mean, the only thing is he's got a blocky head and it doesn't move quite as much as some of the other figures. I don't have a big problem with that. I think they incorporate as much as they could into it to capture the nostalgic vibes of the old one while giving a really fresh update and giving it
Mhm.
like the cartoon face, and absolutely fine with some of the changes in the transformation on it, even though it isn't many.
I mean, one figure I almost found myself picking up, and it's not the one that comes in the 2-pack with Ratchet from Transformers the movie. It's just Brawn by himself.
Hmm.
I almost picked him up one day, but then I thought put him down and said, "No, I got other things I need to pay for."
Well, that was another one. Of course, I picked up both of them, so I've got the undamaged Ratchet and the undamaged Brawn. So when they came out with the Decepticon Ambush 2-pack, which
Hmm.
at the time when it first came out, way too much money because it was like $60. Um, and both figures, and they were 25 apiece. I really don't understand with the lack of real extras that they threw in this thing, how they could justify a $60 price tag for it, but whatever. But I did pick it up, and I thought they were pretty cool for what they were. I wish they would include some other blast effects or something with it to kind of justify that price tag. They just gave like the
Yeah.
purple Decepticon blasts instead of like the Autobot ones for their guns. Even though they show, oh, you can use these Decepticon blasts on their guns. That makes no sense. Should be orange or red. It shouldn't be purple. But grape.
No, but I get what you're saying. You could use the purple blast effects for when Ratchet and Brawn and any of the other ones that they release are being shot and killed. But still, if you go by what happened in the movie, you see Ironhide and Ratchet firing their guns. Prowl makes one shot before he gets it, and all you see Braun do is say Decepticons, get up from his console and start charging, and he gets blasted.
Yep. And that was actually my one gripe about that 2-pack. So they got a nice damage hole in the front of Braun. Looks pretty good.
Hmm.
But they don't have
Hmm.
anything in the back where you see in the movie he's got this big blast blowing out of his back. They didn't add
Hmm.
anything like that on the figure. I was like, that was just a wasted opportunity. They should have added that too.
Yeah, because it happened in the movie, and the way I look at it, if it happened in the movie, it should be depicted in the figure, especially if a collector's buying it. The
Yep.
collector wants that detail.
I think they should have went a step further with the Ironhide. So they gave us the damaged version of Ironhide. I think they should have gave us something that happened off screen. You should have seen, like an attachment where his head's like completely gone, like it's just like
Hmm.
fragments of his head, like a pop off head.
Or you know what they could have done is they could have made the blown apart Ironhide look more like the original toy if they wanted to
Yeah.
go that route.
Someone evil made that 2-pack. What's
Yeah,
up, Bone?
and it's good to see Bone. Glad to have you here. And also stepping away from the toy collecting for a little bit, you do also do movie reviews and topics on your channel, and you know are there any particular movies that you've had a lot of fun doing a review on, or just even talking about?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of them that I enjoyed doing talks about. Transformers '86 a movie. I've done a few of those. I
Mhm.
love that animated cartoon. As far as like regular movies, uh, revisiting things that most people are maybe not familiar with it, or maybe they've just never even heard of, like stuff like Car Wash, DC Cab. I love doing discussion of stuff like that. That because it's
Mhm.
easier to do a discussion on a movie that everybody knows of or everybody's seen. So if you talk about Ghostbusters, Back to the Future, most people are going to know about it or have at least seen it at least once. It's when you start
Mhm.
getting into the ones that are a little bit lesser known that I find that to be a little bit more fun because maybe you're opening somebody up to something they've never even heard or seen before. I find that to be more fun sometimes than talking about something that most people have probably seen a dozen times or better.
Yeah, that's like when we did a watch party of Strange Brew. I don't know how many people actually have seen that movie,
I've never
even know
seen that
about that
movie
movie.
before, you hoser.
All
Oh,
right, you
take off,
hoser.
eh? Oh, take off, eh?
But
Well,
trying to find an obscure movie to do a review on, or even a watch party on, that is fun.
I always have a blast with those things. My buddy Slasher, he does a lot of these like nondescript movies that some of us never even heard of before. A lot of fun looking at some of those things. And a lot of times, and it's still sad to say, I'm more enthralled with watching an older movie that I've never heard of or never seen before than watching
Mhm.
some of the newer stuff. Because a lot of this newer stuff, it just doesn't even interest me in the slightest.
Yeah, it's just like this past Sunday we watched The Haunting from 1963. I'd never seen that movie, and I actually enjoyed it. And
yeah,
and part of the reason why I enjoyed it was, just the filming style of it that Robert Wise used when he directed it. And some of the techniques to make the door look like it's expanding, techniques that nowadays they would use CGI to make it look like a door is expanding. And
Mhm. I did a lot of interesting stuff back then. A lot of
yeah,
interesting
oh
stuff.
yeah, they did. Yeah, they did. They put a lot of heart and effort into making movies back then too.
well, they had
I
to be
mean, that's
creative.
yes, absolutely, and it was a joy for what they were doing too. Where you get a lot of these people, they don't give a shit. I mean, Michael, like I know, it's probably going to be touchy with some people, but Michael Bay had literally said he didn't give a rat's ass about Transformers, knew nothing about it, and didn't
No,
care. He was just there to make explosions. He did
Yep.
not care about the franchise, and as far as I was concerned, it showed in a lot of those movies. I'm sorry, to
no,
me, that was somebody who was just there for a paycheck.
he even said that he didn't think that the G1 designs would even work in live action.
Yeah. Idiot.
Yeah. And it's good to see a Polynesian minion.
How's it
Glad to
going?
have you here. Hope everything's going well with you today.
Yeah,
Kilted
the
Cajun,
barbarian.
yes. DC Cab or the Barbarians. Yeah, the Barbarians brothers were in both of them.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, the one's passed away, if I
Yeah,
understand right. But
yeah, it was
yeah,
a
that.
while ago.
Oh, they were.
Aaron, why don't you go ahead and ask a question?
I don't know what to ask, to be honest with you. I've just been enjoying listening to you guys talking. To be honest with you, I'm being like
It's the guinea
Cash.
pig stare, isn't it? We're still
Yeah,
staring at you. You've
yeah.
changed places and we're still looking at you.
I'm really, really nervous. Really, really nervous. What you were saying about how you like showing off those films that people may not have. I mean, I remember the Barbarians. I remember DC Cab. Used Cars. Oh, that's a great movie. Hysterical,
Hmm.
especially with Grandpa Munster in there. And the Mile of Cars. Yeah. Uh, it. What would you say that you have not introduced yet, but you would like to introduce to people out there?
As far as movies are concerned,
Yeah.
geez, we've gone through a lot of them. Like if I didn't go over on my channel, we've gone over a lot of them on Slasher's channel.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
off the top of my head, God, I really can't think of anything off the top of my head that we haven't already touched on. So most of the stuff that's a little bit more nondescript that I wanted to get out there, I think I've mostly done all of them now. And that's not to say if I don't think on it in a while that something might pop in my head. Oh, I forgot about this one. But
Hmm.
like the main ones I wanted to get to, like DC Cab, I wanted to do talks on Logan's Run, which
Yeah.
at one point it seemed a lot of people had forgotten all about that movie, so I did discussions on that. We did
Great
discussions
movie.
on the Warriors. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, Logan's Run, great film, man. My dad had it on
Yeah.
Super 8, and I still have those reels that I brought
Holy
back from his house.
Holy cow! I was expecting you to say like laser disc, but Super 8, that's
Oh yeah,
that's gotta
I have
be
I
a
have a
collector's
ton of
thing.
stuff, Baron. My dad had a ton of those freaking old Super 8s that I brought back, like old Woody Woodpecker cartoons, the old what was that, the 70s? No, 60s Spider-Man cartoons.
Yeah. Hmm. Exactly.
All
I
kinds of cool shit.
I just have radio programs I absconded with when I left the radio station was at. Shh. But yeah, I mean, do you keep those films primarily major studios, or do you venture off to like in the '80s? Of course, you had the we call it B film, but really wasn't smaller studios, smaller budgets, things like Full Moon Entertainment, Chroma, all those others, films. Of course, Toxic Adventure, which is Doxy is getting a re-release here coming up, but you had things like Doll Man, Transers, Zone Troopers, stuff like that. Are those part of the collections that you like to show people to introduce them to what we had back then for lower budget but still well done films?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. So there was a few that I had suggested, and this goes back to, sometimes I do it on my channel, sometimes I would do it with Slasher.
Mm.
Oh god, I'm trying to remember the name of it. So there was this one movie where there was these like alien things that looked almost like leeches, and I don't know why. I'm Night of the Creeps.
Oh
So
yeah,
that was
Night of the
another
Creeps. Yeah.
that was another low budget, small studio release that I thought was just a lot of fun to watch. And that was
Mhm.
one of the ones I brought up and he had done on his channel. So yeah, like it doesn't
Wow.
matter. It could be big studio, little studio, as long as it's a fun movie to watch. And it doesn't even have to be great. It could
Hmm.
be
Oh no.
pure 100% cheese. But if it's
Hmm.
still fun to watch, yeah, I'm good with talking about those kind of movies.
Oh hell yeah! I mean, fun to watch, silly, cheesy films like Death Race 2000, which was absolutely fantastic.
With Stallone in
Yeah,
it.
Stallone's and he's the bad guy. David Carradine as Frankenstein, and of course, it's directed by Paul Bartel, who himself was a rather unique individual, shall we say? Uh, eating Raoul and all the others that he did. Uh, and I don't remember much about Night of the Creeps. I think I only saw it once back on cable because that's how a lot of these films were introduced to myself. But didn't one of those leech creatures go up some guy's bunghole in one
I
of the
I
scenes?
I I think so. I think so. Well, a lot of those weird movies. I didn't even get Nightbreed's another good one. Absolutely.
Oh yeah,
Where
yep.
I got introduced to a lot of these B-rated movies was actually the old video store. So we had like a
Hmm.
local video store, not a Blockbuster, just a local mom and pop video store, and they
Hmm.
had a huge section of like B-rated movies, whether they were horror
Yeah,
or whatever. Like I'd never heard of The River's Edge with Keanu Reeves until I went
yeah.
to the video store one day and saw it. I was like, "Oh, that looks interesting. Let's watch that."
Oh yeah,
So
that was
we had a
interesting
bunch
too.
of us friends got together, kind of like how we do here on YouTube. A bunch of
Hmm.
friends
Hmm.
got together and we watched it and we're talking about it and everything like that. The same kind of
Oh
stuff. I mean, a lot of this stuff is rehashed of something that happened before. You don't think so, but it has.
yeah. Well, that's just it. Yeah, and you're absolutely right. No, we didn't have the blockbusters until later on. The one store we had was Adventures in Video, and yeah, and that's where a lot of these films also. If it wasn't on Cinemax or whatever, especially when it gets to a little bit later and they start showing stuff like that before they go to Skinemax hour. It was the video store, and you see some of these things had such great artwork on the packaging. You just
Hmm.
look like DEFCON 4. I mean, you just take a look at DEFCON 4, which really was a silly movie, but
Yeah, but you look at the
artwork was just
artwork, Baron, and
oh,
some of these, videos, some of the posters, and that made you want to watch it.
it did. It did. It's like, wow, look at that. You mean I want that hanging in my wall type of thing.
Hmm.
Uh, and I still do. I mean, I'd love to, get a poster of Transers. I'd love to get a poster of DEFCON 4 and a few of these others that they had out there. And I think that's what helped out, the video store, the cable, because not everybody was able to afford cable. And if they did, they didn't have the movie channels necessarily because that was above and beyond. But I tell you, it made for many an interesting Friday, Saturday, night, or we don't have school next week, or hey, it's the summertime. What else do we got to do? Let's just
And,
burn through
and
films.
Apollo Meets brings up a great movie, which I've already
Oh,
told you in Cash that we're gonna have a watch party of.
excellent
Heavy
movie.
Metal.
Oh, yep,
Yeah, and I'm not sure if they still have the first one, but they do have the second heavy metal. The heavy metal, I think it was 2000, is
yeah,
over on
FAK.
Tubi. And
Yeah,
another
F8.
one that Padawannabe was talking about, Fire and Ice, also available
Oh yeah,
on Tubi. If you haven't watched that one, that's another fun one to watch.
yeah. Fire and Ice is
Mhm.
good. Heavy Metal 2000. Except for the fact that you have Michael Ironsides providing the voice of the bad guy, not so much. Definitely go for the original. I mean, the music, everything in that original heavy metal. Man, what a great soundtrack that is. You can just go out there, get that soundtrack, and just blast it for hours. You know,
Well,
veteran of the
even the
Psychic War.
animation in the original.
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah, Canadian. A Canadian outfit did that one up there. And then you'd hear some of the Second City people in there. You'd hear Squidward in there, Roger
Mhm.
Bumpus. I mean, you start finding out who provided voices for this. It just blows your mind, especially John Candy playing Dar, this big muscular guy. And it's like, yeah, you know what John Candy looks like,
Mhm.
but he did a great job. Oh yeah, heavy metal is an excellent one. I'm glad we are doing that one. And that's the other thing too. These bashy type films that they had out there, American Pie was American Pie, I think was one of them. No, what was it? I think there was a rock and roll one that they had out there, and that was a bashy a film also along there, and some rather controversial that they had, but it was still great entertainment and not made for the kids. Definitely. Definitely not. Have you ever done Kentucky Fried Movie?
We haven't we've discussed talking about it, but
Do it.
we just haven't gotten around to it yet. So
Do it.
usually it's like they do a kind of like a consensus between everybody. Usually shows up on the panels on because Slash has been handling most of the movies lately. That's why
Hmm.
most of the more modern stuff you see on my channel, if it's not guinea pigs, if it's not toy reviews, then it's battle bots, and that's it's been like that for a few years now because Slasher was doing most of the movies, and I wanted that to be kind of his baby, you know.
Right.
Like, yeah, you handle the movies unless there's something like I want to talk about, like going old school or something like that, which he'd always be a part of anyway.
Right.
Yeah, I usually leave like the reviews, watch party things to him.
Yeah, because Kentucky Fried Movie helped usher in things like Cannibals of the Avocado Jungle and a few of those other 80 ones they came out with, where there are little vignettes through that you were watching through the whole thing. And of course, the one film that the Zuckers and Abrams did that I don't think gets enough love, Top Secret. I think that's actually their best film they did. Myself, the humor is a lot more sly in there, and you have Peter Cushing. I mean, how can you go wrong with that? And Val Kilmer, that was one of his early roles, getting him going.
Mhm.
But I that one I don't feel that one gets enough love by people.
Guilty Cage and Battle Beast. Oh, bots. Never mind. Yeah, funny. I have done a discussion on Battle Beasts as well. Interesting. Most people don't realize that there's a tie over from Dakar where they originally wanted Battle Beast to be a bit of a spin-off of the Transformers. They were supposed to originally be interconnected.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Interesting.
I
And
didn't
Well,
that's
know
why
that.
they were all cybernetic and everything.
yeah. My next statement here probably is going to piss off about half the people out there, but I don't really like Barbarella. I never really liked Barbarella. I tried watching it at least twice, and I could not get into it. I like the weird stuff. I love the the crazy fanciful stuff, but I could not get into Barbarella, and it has nothing to do with Jane Fonda either. So I don't know why. Even though I
Every,
hear they're remaking it.
well, everybody's got their own taste when it comes to movies, and I say that plenty of times. You know, like
Hmm.
my opinion might not jive with everybody on things that I like. Like everybody
Oh
loved the
yeah,
Joker, loved the Joker. They loved that first one. I couldn't stand it. I
I
found it to
I didn't
be
like it. I
I
thought it
found
was
it to be a
disturbing.
snooze fest.
hmm but you like the second one.
I would not watch the second one.
That space battleship Yamato. Yeah,
Yes.
Yamato. Yeah, the live action one that they did. I like that one, but of course, that would be considered an imported film, I believe. But that's a good film. Great
Yeah,
special
I
effects.
like that. I thought the Japanese version they did was great of that. I was first introduced the Americanized version of Star Blazers when I was a kid.
Yep. hmm
So
But yeah, when I heard there was a live action back in the day, it's like, oh please, please, this is when you have your megaplex theaters, right? Where you're going to have Mission Impossible in half of them. It's like you can take one of the Mission Impossibles out and put something like this in. Of course, didn't, and I had to buy it on DVD. And boy, I was not disappointed watching that live action. It's like, boy, I just can't believe you were able to do that. But it's great, great. My one daughter sat back, who was a big Star Wars fan at the time. She sat back and said, "This is better than Star Wars."
Mhm. I mean, really, that's saying something. If
Yeah.
your kid knew about Star Wars then, was into Star Wars then, and then she sees
hmm
something that she thinks is better than Star Wars.
Well, yeah. I mean, you're dealing with two kids who are about 12 years old, watching a film over 2 hours long, and it's all subtitled, and they're enthralled through it. That says something. That says something. That says something. But yeah, I like that idea though of course introducing people to these movies that they may not have seen. Like there's Looker that which I think I've been on the bandwagon about saying watch this movie. It's very very basically prophetic of the times that we're in. What they had there, of course, Michael Crichton. What do you expect? But do you have like a time limit? Do you go? Is it a specific era, or do you go back into the 50s, into the 60s?
I will
Do
go
you?
back as far as I want to. I mean, once
Mhm,
again, it all depends on the movie of what they have in
mhm.
there. Like I've
Yeah,
gone back and I've watched The Time Machine a few times.
great
Um,
film.
I've gone back even further than that to some of the black and white stuff. Watched like the older like the Mummy, Creature
Yeah.
from the Black Lagoon, and all stuff like that. It all depends. There's
Mhm.
some of the older movies. Like I started watching a Jekyll and Hyde one recently, like the old school black and white one.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, I got tied up with having to do toy reviews, and I had to pause it. And haven't had a chance to get back to it, but yeah,
Mhm.
no, there's no time limit. I mean, I think a lot of those classic movies. I think people get this idea that classic movies are not filmed as well, and that they're
Oh,
not as much fun because, well, it's more of an older, stuck-up era and or some whatever their
yeah.
hangups are. And you'd be surprised
I don't know.
at the level
Y
of acting that a lot of
Yeah.
these guys were able to pull off back then, that some of it's just so much better than what you see some of these guys do today.
Oh,
Hmm.
definitely so, because they're classical trained, back in that day. I mean, people like, Marlon Brando coming in with the method acting was that was new when he was bringing it in there. It was really not really heard of. But, how Orson Welles' Chimes at Midnight, basically his doing Falstaff. Have you done that one or ever thought about doing that one?
No, I have not yet.
Oh, I recommend that. I recommend that highly. Chimes at Midnight. It was basically one of his love letters of doing a Shakespearean type film. Of course, dealing with Falstaff, and it took him many years and a lot of money out of his own pockets to do. And it was lost for a long time. It was not released uh, for ages, and then it finally has been out there, but it needs more recognition, if you ask me. Uh, it really does. It
That's
really,
something
really.
I
I mean,
definitely have to check out. Appreciate that.
yeah,
I'm always
yeah,
looking to find something that I haven't had a chance to see before, or maybe just haven't heard of. I mean,
mhm,
because no matter how much of a movie snob you are, no matter how much of a collector you are, if it's toys, it doesn't matter what it
yeah.
is. There's always going to be something you've never heard of. I don't care how big of
Oh,
an expert you think you are.
you hope so because you want to discover something new.
Hmm.
Exactly.
I mean, that's what I like. That's why I shut my mouth for the longest time. Is letting you and Mike talk is like, okay, I'm taking notes now because I'm being schooled.
No,
Touch of
I thought
Evil.
you were I thought you were looking at your watch saying, "Jesus, when's this guy going to shut the hell up so I can get a word in edgewise?"
Okay, you got the. Okay, you caught me. You got me. You got me. No. But another one too, Orson Welles, and has Charlton Heston in it. Touch of Evil. That's another one to look at. and directed by Orson Welles as well. And he plays this big, fat, slobbering, corrupt sheriff in that movie. And it's like, whoa, something you would not expect Orson Welles to play.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Blood Potion #9. I remember that film. That was a silly,
Hmm.
fun film. I think Adrian Paul was in that movie. Who
He
played?
was.
Yeah. Hmm?
My sister
Uh-huh.
liked that movie.
Because of Adrian Paul.
Hmm.
What girl didn't like Adrian Paul? I hated that guy. Hated him. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. It's a joke, YouTube. Settle down. But yeah. Oh, great movies. Great movies. Oh, Tommy is the original Florida man. I did not know that. You and Mike Barron got together uh he based Florida man off of you.
What's going on, Decepticon?
Good to see the Decepticons Cave of Collectibles. Hope you're
Leave it
doing
up
well
to
tonight, brother.
leave it to Decepticon to come in here and just call. Hey, look at that! It's Gary Ambrosia.
Yes, it
Good to
is. Good to see Gary too.
yeah.
Greetings.
I like it when he slums around with us guys. It's like, let's see what the bums are doing today. Oh
Hey,
yeah,
I always say it's never slumming if you enjoy the company you're keeping.
Yeah.
that's true. Yeah, well, I agree with you 100%. And just like the movies, they don't have to be masterpieces. They can be the silliest, whatever out there. But if you enjoy it, that's why I always said about the '80s compared to what we have today. Even the bad films that we had back then were fun. You can still walk away and see at least you had a laugh about it. Uh, I, I could never think about walking out of a movie, no matter quote unquote how bad it was, back in the '80s, because there was still something you could get out of it, and you really can't say that today. You sit through there, and it's like, yeah, I'm going to look at my watch now. Are we done yet? Are we done yet? Are we done yet?
Let me tell you, I watched the original release on TV of the Christmas special from Star Wars,
Hmm.
and
Oh
I
yeah,
sat
yeah,
through the whole thing. And it's not to say that that whole thing was like, giddy up and go the entire time. This wasn't let's go hi ho silver fun the entire way through it. But I thought it was good enough to keep watching all the way through. What
yeah.
I had a very hard time sitting through and wanted to walk out of was the Force Awakens.
Uh, I can handle Force Awakens as the other ones after that.
I didn't
Um,
even like that. I seen because I knew some of the stuff from the novels, and I seen what they
mhm.
were cherry picking
Oh
from it, and
yeah, I
it
know.
irritated me.
Same here, same here. But that one was the most palatable, if you want to say, of the films of that. And as I like to sit back and say is, you know what the Star Wars holiday special has over The Last Jedi and The Rise of Soy Walker? I can watch and have watched the holiday special more than once, and I find it enjoyable. Them, no, forget it.
Yeah.
I've never watched either of them,
No.
Last Jedi or Rise. I've refused. And
Oh,
Decepticon, yeah, AC say got the new TMNT Motu Skeletor.
Hmm.
Major problems I had with that figure, that and the Tila. So let me know how yours turned out. Mine had really bad joints on it, really bad.
really?
It was the first time I gave one of their Motu, the Turtles of Grayskull, crossover series. It's the first time I did not give it a really high score. I actually the score came down quite a bit.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Don't you hate when you have to do that?
one thing I wanted to ask you, I mean, just like with Baron and Cash, I was able to find people
It's
that
cash.
I have a lot of fun streaming with on a weekly basis. Just like you're able to find super fan Adam Shawhan to stream with every week, Trina, Vinny Art. What's that been like for you?
That's been a lot of fun. I mean, I over the years of being on YouTube, and it's been quite a few years. I think it's like as far as having a channel, an actual legit channel and putting up content, it's been like 6+ years that I've been around with all kinds of different people from all kinds of different, I guess you would say, groups, factions, so to speak, on YouTube. Yeah, because don't
Hmm.
get it twisted. People on YouTube get just as tribal as people do in real life. It's kind
Hmm.
of hilarious. And I warned some people about those pitfalls, but but it's really nice and it's refreshing when you find a group of people that you can jive with and you could do the type of things that you do without having a whole lot of drama and nonsense that you wind up getting a lot of times with some of these other groups on YouTube. So, I mean, the people that I'm always streaming with. I mean, even with you and other people, I may not get to stream it. It's not that I have a problem with you guys. I love you guys. You guys are awesome. I just wish that our schedules didn't conflict as much as they were, so we'd be able to, cross over onto each other's streams more. That and my back not giving up on me and falling on the floor like a bowl of Jello. But
Wait a moment.
Yeah.
Ghostbusters told us not to cross the streams.
yeah, don't ever listen to them. They didn't know what they were talking about. They crossed the streams at the end anyway, didn't they?
Yeah, they did.
Their gut reactions were like George Costanza and Seinfeld. Never trust it. It's a bad thing. But
I mean, I've always enjoyed it whenever I've been able to come onto your channel, especially the last time. It was just before Rise of the Beast came out, and we were talking about a news article, or when you've come on to Pop Talk for either a collector stream, or the last time you came on was to celebrate the 40th anniversary of Transformers. It is a lot of fun. It's just trying to find the time to say, yeah, I can be there, or vice versa. Yeah, Mike, I can be there. Just let me know the date and the time. And
yeah, and that's pretty much how it's gotten. And I never thought it would have got that way for me. But like I said, what usually 3 days usually of my time tied up with the toy stream, that takes a big chunk
Mhm.
out of the week of when I can do extra stuff outside of just preparing for the toy stream, or Vinny's got a show on Friday. Slasher does his movie streams on Saturday, and then Vinny's back again on Sunday for his roundtable. So I mean that's over 3/4 of my week tied up already, just between a few shows, and only one of which is really mine. That's why my Tuesday shows, for the most point, they're not something that's overly complicated with Cage Talks, or if I'm just doing Guinea Pig Collective Live, that one's just boom. We're just going on talking about whatever. Cage Talks, of course, is a little bit more structured, but it's not something I have to prepare for each individual person. It's all ready to go with the questions I'm going to ask for that show.
Mhm.
So there's not a lot of planning, where the toy show requires a lot of planning, because I can't show my camera because my internet speed isn't good enough to use my camera. So that means
Mhm.
everything that I had to do, and it was something I kind of stumbled across, and I was like, everybody's like, wow, it's really cool that you format it like this. You're making it as many videos to show off the toy figures. I started doing that out of necessity, because I
Mhm.
couldn't show a camera and just show the damn figures off. So but once again, that takes, with the internet, it takes a lot of time to upload that to StreamYards and play it as clips. So I mean, that's where a lot of my time gets tied up. And yeah, the other shows, they're not. It doesn't take as much time to actually prepare for. So I mean, yeah, the toy stream does eat a lot of time. And now, if I ever get good internet, I'm gonna have all the extra time in the world. You might see me pop it up more often, like, oh please, Mike, throw me a link. I'm bored, because then I'll be able to upload shit in less than a day, and that would be wonderful.
I mean, and I would throw you the link. I mean, there have been a couple times, especially once last time we were on Rumble, I threw you the link to come join us, and you were talking about your Grimlock figure that you had up on eBay.
Yep. Which thank you guys for whatever you helped to push that. I mean, that thing wound up selling for a lot more than I thought it would, and I was in a bit of pinch at the time with cash when I sold them, so I got a decent return on that thing. That was a
Right.
decent payday. But now that figure's even more. I think it's like worth almost $100 more now on average for sales.
And it's crazy how high some of these figures will go up to, especially if they're complete in package.
Well, just a couple years ago, remember when Hot Wheels did that partnership with Transformers and they released that die-cast Optimus Prime?
Mhm.
Yeah.
So that was a online order only. I thought that they had them in stores. They did not. They were online only, online ordering only, and they were something like $70 to $80 for that little Hot Wheels Optimus Prime with his
Hmm.
trailer. They were they were getting sold out quickly because scalpers were buying them all, and within weeks they were putting them up for 200 plus, $300+ for those damn things and selling.
I believe it because there are people who will spend that kind of money just so they can have that figure in their collection. They don't care if they get it from the online website or from the scalper.
That's why I sent you the pictures for the new crossovers they're going to do with Hot Wheels.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really, really hoping that they're actually going to release them in stores this time, and they're not just going to be more online, because a couple of those figures look
Yeah,
pretty damn cool.
yeah, they do. Let me bring those pictures up that you sent me. This way I can show everybody what you're talking about. I mean, I looked at them, Tom, and I'm all, yes, both of them, not just one of them into the collection. Both of them I would like to add to the collection. So, I mean, that says a lot when I look at a figure and I want both of them in my collection. But real quick, before I share my screen, I do want to say hello to FKHC 2005, also known as Tim. Good to see you,
So
Tim.
Some call him Tim.
All right, so let me bring this up here. And make this a little bit bigger so everybody could see it better.
just really cool. I love the way they got the exhaust / fire effects on that too.
Yeah. Just wonderful looking figures. I mean, look at it in vehicle mode with the effects, and of course, this is it in robot mode. I mean, even the hot rod, this one right here. This is the one I think I would definitely want to add to my collection first.
Yeah, he's
Mr.
mean
Skull.
looking. I love it.
Yeah.
Wow, that is
I mean,
nice.
yeah, it is.
Just incredible stuff they're doing, and with the problems that Hasbro's having, I'm pretty sure you're going to start seeing more stuff like this.
I wouldn't doubt it.
I mean, look at the fiasco that went on with McFarlane, where they lost the licensing to Mattel for DC figures worldwide.
Yeah, and that's another thing. Have you ever collected any of the McFarlane items, or is that
Very few, very few. There's a few here and there. I don't, and I don't want to say this the wrong way, because it's not everything he does, but I've had some serious quality issues with some of the figures I picked up from him. Some of them were pretty damn bad. Other times I don't like the way he does paint applications for somebody who's supposed to be, in charge of the DC universe. Like, for example, when he did Lobo, I love the character of Lobo. Love what they did with the molding of it. Hated what they did with the paint applications on it. So he's got the white face, but then he's got gray chest and arms. Like, how do you even make a mistake like that?
If I were Warner Brothers DC, I'd say no. Go back to the drawing board, because this is terrible what you're doing with the paint apps. If you're going to have the white face, he needs to have the white arms as well.
Yep. But unfortunately, those are the kind of mistakes that they would make. I mean, I know they did. They had their 66 line of Batman figures, which didn't have tons of articulation. They had some, but they were doing really good at first. And then when they got up to right around like Batgirl, like the colors on her outfit was just all wrong. It didn't. It was like this weird color. It did not look like the 66 show. I was like, God, that thing looks horrible. Then they started releasing like gimmicky figures with Batman in swim trunks with a snorkel mask thing on. Like, why? Why? There's so many other things that you could do, except, besides that. Like, That's why that 66 line wound up crumbling. They just
Hmm.
did what McFarlane always does. Well, let's just do Batman over and over again. Do Batman.
Hmm.
And I'm pretty sure a lot of that kind of stuff is what led to him losing the license, getting bid out because he really didn't think, you know, it was worth spending the extra money on. But Mattel did. Hopefully, Mattel ups their game and does something spectacular. But I mean, who knows? Who knows? Some of these toy companies have been getting awfully lazy. So
Yeah, and you would like to see them step up their game, especially if Hasbro is going to stop producing their own toys. It if Hasbro decides, maybe they should give the responsibility of making Transformers to Mattel.
Yeah.
you know who, honestly, if anybody was going to get licensing for, and it's not to take anything away from Super 7 Reaction, they do some really cool stuff, but unfortunately, the same thing with them. I was gifted a Cobra Commander figure from the Super 7
Hmm.
series. Tons and tons of problems with that figure, including one where he came with a rifle with no handle. Like I don't even understand how you put that in the packaging. Think it's okay. Give him a rifle with no handle. There's no way for him to hold it. Nothing.
No,
It made no sense. Like if any company was to get, say, Transformers or GI Joe, if Hasbro was to license them out, one company I think has been doing an amazing job, and they've done tremendous work with their Street Fighter Alpha. Was it no Street Fighter Arcade? Uh, is it Alpha series? I forget what series it is. And I have a few of them too. So that's totally my stupidity for not remembering. But they're doing these Street Fighter figures, Jada, and they are absolutely outstanding. The amount of articulation that is in it, the detailing and everything that's in it, these things are like knockouts. And on top of that, they're reasonably priced at $25 a figure. Like just incredible, incredible looking figures. So if anybody was to get some of that stuff, I would love to see Jada get them because I think that they would just do a bang up job with either Transformers, GI Joe, or any of those other lines. I think they would knock it out of the park.
hmm and getting back to Transformers, did you ever play any of the War for Cybertron or Foul for Cybertron games?
Well, I had both War and Fall of Cybertron. I forget which one it was. I'm pretty sure it was the second one. I unlocked all the achievements that they had on Xbox. I played it so damn much.
Hmm.
I had a blast with both of those games. They were tremendous, and it really was a shame what Activision did to High Moon Studios because they were
Yeah.
killing it because they were giving you something new while still respecting the mechanical side of the older school G1 stuff. They were using a lot of the G1 stuff while adding some newer elements in there, but they're doing it in a way that it's not insulting anybody. I think they did it perfectly the way they did those games.
Yeah, I mean, especially in War for Cybertron, when you see the beginnings of Optimus becoming leader of the Autobots, and fleshing out Zeta Prime a little more, and the character we really didn't have a lot of information on. And again, like you said, respecting G1 canon that had already been established.
Yeah, there was definitely a lot of elements in that game.
Hmm.
Even with the Netflix version, I think that they did a lot of tie overs with a lot of obviously they took the more brutal side of what they had in the IDW, the early IDW comics, which early
Mhm.
IDW Transformers and shit that was pretty good. It was the later stuff that got ridiculously stupid, but the early stuff was pretty good, and they incorporated that more. How can we say there's really is consequences to the war? you know Bots are going to get destroyed, killed, and everything
Mhm.
like that, where there's a little bit more gravity, kind of like what they introduced in the 86 movie. They had that with some of the more grittier storylines, but they still had a lot of these throwbacks to the G1 cartoons and Marvel comics with some of the stuff
Mhm.
that they added in there. And I liked the way they did it. I didn't care for the last part of it, which was Kingdom. I thought it was okay. I didn't think it was as good as the first two.
Yeah, Kingdom. I gave them an A for effort for trying to do what they were doing, bringing G1 and Beast Wars together, but the execution, it just wasn't there for me. And I honestly think it really lacked Gary Chalk and David Kay. You needed those two to voice Primal and Megatron for Beast Wars.
Hmm.
I mean, even with the voices of Prime and Megatron, wasn't the same
Yeah.
without Peter Cullen and Welker. But at the same time, that didn't grind me as much because I felt like those two tried to put on their best performances of them. The one
Hmm.
character's voice that absolutely irritated me to no end with the Netflix Siege version was Ironhide. I could not stand that squeaky, high pitched voice that they used for Ironhide. That just, I can't explain it. It irked me.
No, I know what you mean. If I were the voice director, I would have said to the actor, try to make yours sound a little bit more like Peter Cullen's Ironhide. Because that's what fans are familiar with.
Once again, you always get back to that. You know, they talk about, well, we're putting a more modern spin on this. Well, look, if you're not initially doing this for the fans that were already established for these franchises, who are you really doing it for? Because if it's a more modern audience, unless they're just going to be suddenly enraptured by it, you're not necessarily capturing them without a built-in audience. So
Hmm.
you got to find that nice smooth in between. And the guys who did Cobra Kai, I think that they found a good way to do it. So they kept everything with the characters that everybody loved and infused them with new characters and created something that to kind of make you like them with the use of the older characters. And they didn't really spit on either one of them.
Hmm.
That's the way to do it. Unfortunately, some of these companies kind of forget that along the way, and they make some really poor choices for stuff that should have been absolutely stellar and could have been a lot bigger than what it was. But they really didn't. They didn't read the room. That's the best way to say it. They did not read the room.
No, Kilter Cajun brains up the Skybound run of Transformers comics right now. I have a couple of them myself, and I'm enjoying them so far. And because to me, they're capturing the essence of what the cartoon was, what the Marvel comics were, but they're also adding a new layer to it.
And see, some of the early. I mean, I don't want to say too early IDW because it felt a little bit more Michael Bay in the very early IDW. But some of the stuff, I actually not even so much early, probably like mid run before they went all stupid with the agenda crap. They were making them look more G1. They were giving them characterizations that felt very G1,
Hmm.
and it was a lot of fun to read. It was a lot of fun to read, and I had a blast reading them more so than I did with the stuff that they were doing. What was that? Dark Horse, I think it was, that had it before IDW.
Yeah, it was Dark
Yeah.
Horse.
Hmm.
Yeah, I didn't like the Dark Horse stuff quite as much. I thought some of the IDW stuff they did mid run was a lot better, but like all those companies, well, a lot of those companies in the comic industry, it all went downhill. You can ask Vinny and talk to him for the months on months about how bad that they screwed everything up.
Now, normally at this time we would be getting ready to head over to Rumble, but I'm going to go ahead and keep this last
Rumble,
hour
rumble, rumble.
over here on YouTube and Rumble, if that's okay for everybody.
Aww.
I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that.
All right.
Hey,
I can kind of be behaved.
well, I mean, we're doing good. Cash isn't here, so
Well, you're doing fine, Tommy. You're the guest, so wherever
yeah,
you want the conversation to go, we'll definitely go there.
yeah.
No, and definitely. Well, I mean, it's your show too.
Mhm.
Yeah, but I like to give high priority to the guest.
No, I know. I
Yes,
appreciate that. I thank you for that. But I mean, hey, everybody's here for you. This is your channel. I may be the guest on here, but that's it. I'm a guest on here. I'm here to help with your show. I'm not here to take it over. I mean, not unless you
that
want me to assimilate you right now, and we're just going to get this
yeah.
over with,
It's
and
all
you'll
it's
be.
all about it's all about you tonight, brother.
Yeah.
from now on, you are Pacific414 of the Guinea Pig Collective. It's over. I have taken complete control over this channel. From now on, everything is going to be Chappelle joke inserts. As far as memes being displayed on screen, it has come to an end as the way you know it. I'm so sorry.
Okay,
Careful, careful,
I'm
Mike.
cool. I'm cool with that. I'm cool with
Careful,
that.
Mike. One of those Borg guinea pigs might probe you, so be careful.
Well, they might be mad at my stream last night playing Star Trek Voyager Elite Force, the first of the two Elite Force games, because I did shoot several Borg. So
Did you get Neelix?
you know what happens when you shoot a crewman. I even demonstrated it last night. You get thrown in the brig.
If it's Neelix, you get a lot of people cheering.
No, I did not shoot Neelix.
I got to that just as you were coming to an end of your gaming stream, so I gave you a thumbs up.
Well, I appreciate that.
I was watching other games being played.
Like the State of the Union.
Well, it's not a State of the Union; it was just an address, but you might as well call it that. I mean, really. I mean, I got to hear about.
What would you say you do here?
Yeah, I mean, really.
5 things. 5 things, Baron. Tell me 5 things that you've done on the show today.
Get intimidated by a guinea pig. Scratched myself. I scratched myself a couple times. I had a drink. I was thirsty, so I had a drink. There's three, and yeah. Let's see. I'll get the other two to you soon because it's not over. It's not over yet. I'm bound to do 2 more things here.
But
oh, sorry.
no, that's all right. No, I was. I mean, is there like, and I know you were talking about some of the things that you were looking for. Is there anything you're looking forward to? Because I know there's a lot of things that I'm looking forward to as far as like figures that are coming out and everything like that. Show wise, I haven't really seen anything I'm looking forward to except maybe Godzilla versus Kong, as long as they don't screw it up. Other than that, I can't think of anything. Is there anything like you're looking forward to? Like, I know they got talking about Transformers, they've got a few more that they said they got in the pipelines for 86 that they're going to be talking about soon. Which
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
kind of curious to see
The
who's gonna release.
Constructicons.
Well, the Constructicons look amazing, but
Yeah.
a lot of them are sold out in a lot of these sites, and that's something that Hasbro promised wouldn't happen.
Well, it wouldn't be the first time they promised something and couldn't fulfill that promise.
Hasbro lied?
The hell you say?
I never would have imagined it in 1,000 years.
I wouldn't have either. Hearing that Hasbro lies. Well,
you know what really grinds my gears?
That grinds my gears right there. There, at least we got a couple clips in. Since he said Chappelle clips, we don't have Chappelle clips. So.
You know which figure I actually do want? The Perceptor figure.
Oh, dude, I have both versions. So I have the regular 86 Perceptor, and then I have the limited edition Magnificus, all in black, from the Diaclone stuff. Amazing. And I'm talking about, that's a 10 out of 10 mold. This thing is absolutely incredible. I had so much fun shooting that video. Matter of fact, that was the first newer figure when Cliffjumper was still doing reviews that he tried to take a nibble at a Perceptor's chest plate when he was in microscope mode. Amazing figure. Like, yeah, I wish I had an extra that I could tell you, Mike, I have an extra one of them, but I do not, because he was actually pretty hard to come by. And the Magnificus one, I had to special order that to be able to get him. So incredible mold though. If you get your hands on it, you would not be disappointed. I can guarantee you that.
Yeah, I'm actually gonna bring a picture of him right now. I just went to Amazon and I'll zoom in and everything, and so everybody can see why exactly I'm impressed with this figure. So let me bring it up here.
And like I said, I'm very finicky about what figures can do too. And he pulled off everything that you would expect a modern day figure to pull off and still have a damn good look to him.
Yeah, I mean, look at that head sculpt alone.
It's a very, very clean looking figure, you know?
Yeah,
Mhm.
it is.
You can even get his third conversion with it, which they actually have it on there too. It's supposed to be now in the original directions. I believe that they called that a what did they say it was, a maneuverable lab station or something like that. But it looks more like a tank version.
It does. And that's what I've heard some people refer to it as, is his tank mode.
Well, it makes sense because he's got the treads. Like even
Yep.
the old school one, and most people
Had
didn't know that. Yeah, the G1 one had actual a special piece that only pulled out for that like tank looking mode.
Mm-hmm.
It pulled out of his feet.
And of course, this is him in his famous microscope mode, and
The intimidating microscope mode that made Decepticons weep in fear.
well,
Oh, he's gonna examine me.
here's what I would love to do if I were to get the figure and go to a convention that Paul Ideen was at, and he's the original voice actor for Perceptor. Get him to sign the box.
Ooh, that'd be cool.
Yeah, absolute beauty. Like if you got your 86 collection going, man, him and Blaster, the 86 Blaster are a must. Both of them are incredible figures. Some of the other ones, they're not bad, but they lose a lot of points. Like the Hot Rod, Cup. There's some big takeaways, both on the Perceptor and the Blaster. There's almost zero takeaways from either one of those figures. Both of them are incredible, and even the cassette, the Blaster he comes with a eject. Even the way they did eject is absolutely amazing. They get a small core class size figure like that down to a full kneeling position and everything. Just they did everything right for something that was so simply made. Like everything about those two figures, Blaster and Perceptor, is just incredible.
Well, let me see if they have it on Amazon. Just out of curiosity. Helps if I spell Blaster right.
Yeah, it would.
Now remember, they did 3 releases of Blaster.
Mm-hmm.
So they did, I think it was Kingdom, then they did Legacy, then they did the 86 Transformers, and they did a 4th version of that mold, which is called Jesus, why am I blanking on his name? It's the dark version of him, the blue version.
Yeah, this is the Kingdom version of him.
There he is, right there, Twincast. It just
Yeah.
came to me as soon as you pulled up the picture. And the difference between Twincast and Blaster, besides obviously the color, they recolored Eject and made him rewind.
Honestly, I'd be happy with him as Twincast or Blaster if I were to find him.
Cool thing about this figure, I didn't find out until way after the fact. See the little red speakers on them? They actually flip around, and you get a whole different look to the speakers. You wouldn't even notice, and I don't remember seeing it in the instructions.
That's cool. That's very cool.
Take that, Soundwave.
Well, Baron, you just mentioned Soundwave. Now I'm curious to see if they have Soundwave as Sound Blaster, because that was his...
They did do a Sound Blaster, and I'm trying. I don't recall if I picked that one up or not because I had so many in the back I never got to. So it was around the time when I was when I first started picking a lot of these up when they were releasing as part of like Siege lines and everything like that. And the early Legacy that just started, I was still cleaning up my father's house. So sometimes I would just pick them up, didn't have time to look them, went right in the tote to be able to ship home with all the other stuff. So I know they did them. I don't remember if I got them now.
And real quick, I do want to say hello to Phil McCracken. Oh, people collect GoBots. People collect whatever they want, Phil.
I have GoBots, Phil. Super GoBots and regular GoBots.
Phil collects them. Don't let him fool you. That was his big thing.
And it's good to see Lorenzo Sleestack. But real quick before I continue on looking for Sound Blaster, Springer was another one I was kind of curious about.
I got the 86 version. It's a very nice figure, but there is a little bit of lack of articulation up in the shoulder area. Other than that, I mean, the figure looks great. He does come with a fair amount of accessories, and he transforms fairly seamlessly. So, it's an overall nice figure.
Mhm. I mean, it's a pretty good representation of the original toy too, and
Yeah, and I have the original toy still. So,
all right. So let's see if they have Sound Blaster. Of course, they have the Studio Series 86 Galvatron. I actually already have Galvatron, so with that one, I'm not going to pick him up again, even with him being more animated, color accurate.
that's kind of where I was. But I mean, considering my collection is almost complete, I think I eventually will pick him up.
Mm-hmm.
The one I will never pick up, though, is the Megatron one they're going to release. I have no interest in seeing a supposed 86 Megatron as a tank. No interest in it whatsoever.
Especially when that wasn't his original G1 form.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Hasbro, but you guys are dropping the ball by making him a tank. You know, I if you have to put an orange cap on him, put an orange cap on him and make him a P-38.
No, there's a way around that. So what they could do is they could do a normal release as a tank just for the stores, for just to not piss off the toy people that put all the bands on toy guns and everything like that. Then you offer a collector's version, and Hasbro, don't tell me you don't do it, because you do it with plenty of shit through your HasLabs and everything. Have a special edition collector's only version of Megatron that transforms into gun, and then you make everybody happy. But they don't want to put the time in.
No.
Why would they want you happy?
Okay, well, it's not Studio 86, but it is a Legacy Evolution
Right.
Sound Blaster.
I just can't believe how many different companies make these.
Yeah, and also, this is just the regular toy line. We haven't even gotten into any of the Masterpiece.
I know. I thought it was bad when you had Joy Toy and McFarlane doing Warhammer 40K. Then I look at this, it's like you almost need to have one of those conspiracy theorist cork boards up there with the string, with the pins, and okay, it goes this one down here, this goes here, and it connects with that one there, and I want to believe that stuff.
You better believe they would be raking in the dough, Kilt and Cajun, if they released a HasLab version of Megatron that was true to form.
There's a third-party company that's out there doing it now. While it may not fall in scale with the new Studio Series 86 Optimus Prime, he's a little bit on the smaller side. There's a third-party company that's doing Megatron as a gun that looks absolutely cartoon-inspired and looks incredible.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've seen a couple of people doing a review on that particular one. I haven't looked to see how much it would cost, but
Now, I heard that they were going to release another Soundwave, but I heard that it was going to be... So I have the Netflix from War for Cybertron version of Soundwave. He was limited release in Walmart. I have that version, and he looks pretty good. I heard that was going to be the basis for the new 86 Soundwave.
Very nice, very nice. Of course, you have Slag here. I know they're calling him Slug, but I still call him Slag because that's his name. I don't care what anyone says. It's Slag.
Agreed. I think the only mistake that they made with some of the Dinobots is they only gave them like a single weapon. and
Instead of
sometimes
giving them the
yeah, and
blaster
sometimes
and the sword.
yeah, or they would give them some instead of their main weapon, they'd give them their rocket launcher weapon, which I was like, why? You know.
Yeah.
And that was really weird. Is Swoop came with two swords,
Hmm.
so he came with his sword, and then he came with Grimlock's sword.
That's weird. And of course, here you have the Studio Series Scrapper and also Bone Crusher here.
Yeah, and Hook and Long Haul is the other set, but that's a dual set for $89. Which once again,
Damn.
that price cost of two figures that are Voyager class, how do you come up with 89? This is what I mean. This is where Hasbro kills themselves because you got a Voyager class and then you got a deluxe class right here in the first two. So why are the other ones almost they're a little beyond Voyager class pricing? Like it didn't make any sense.
I mean, mm, I, I'm just looking at it from this perspective. They're thinking because we're collectors, we have all the money in the world, and we'll shell out as much as we have to collect these figures. I'm sorry, no, I have a limit. I have other responsibilities before I add any new Transformer figure or any figure for that matter to my collection.
And it's not to take any away from the look of these things. They do look incredible. I mean, just
Yeah.
amazing the stuff that they put in there. But once again, yeah, when you're talking about knowing how bad things are with a lot of people with finances and everything like that, they're dropping these high price tag ones, and they if they wanted to, they could do better and make money, and they would probably sell out even faster than what they're doing now with the scalpers buying everything. But they just don't want to budge, and these things don't cost nowhere near what they're selling.
Hmm.
No.
I mean, that's why Walmart at one point was able to take some of those figures in the later lines or the later end of the Legacy series, and that's how they were able to double pack two deluxe figures for $20 because there was still a profit margin there. They wouldn't have
Hmm.
done it if there was no profit margin. It just tells you how much that they overcharge right from the jump for these things.
I mean, again, because of some of the pricing, I have passed on figures in the past. Going, nope, too steep for my wallet.
Yeah, they're absolutely cutting off their own nose to spite their face at this point, and
Yeah,
they still haven't figured out, well, why are we in the red? Why are we in the red? I wonder why, Sherlock.
yeah, exactly. Sometimes it's better to have it at a lower price and sell a lot of them than to have it at a high price and not sell that many.
Yep.
Especially when people don't have the money.
Hmm. Because there have even been some masterpiece figures. Heck, the God Jinrai masterpiece that was released or it's about to be released. I would love to have that, but I'm not paying almost $400 for it. Forget that.
Yeah, some of the prices are absolutely insane on those things. Like, look at that Skyfire, the Jetfire one.
Yeah.
$51. Like that's a little bit more reasonable for how large of a figure the original one was, but for that one, is that even as large as the original Hasbro release? No, it's a 7 inch. So that's really not all that good of a price.
No. I mean, it's a nice looking figure. It also comes with the alternate head. But I have one that they released back in, I want to say 2007, 2008 in my collection.
Well, I know the larger one that they did for Siege. I'd got when they did a re-release of that one, I was able to pick it up. Pretty damn cool figure overall. A few flaws,
Hmm.
but really nice figure. He even had the rotating symbol in the center of the chest, so it could be Decepticon or Autobot. He did come with the face shield, and everything like that. Really nice figure. But I mean, originally, yeah, that was the, even back then that was well over $75 starting for that figure.
Hmm.
I think by the
And
time they re-released it, it was almost 80.
And for anyone who might be wondering, well, why does he have both an Autobot and a Decepticon symbol? Because in the episode Fire in the Sky, there's a point in the episode where Skyfire says, "I'm no longer a Decepticon. I am an
Mhm.
Autobot now." So,
Yep.
just to give people some backstory. And
I
but I
remember
mean,
that episode.
I already have this Galvatron figure. Yes, he is in the cartoon accurate colors for this one right here that we're looking at, but this is one I am not going to double dip into.
I mean,
It
the
looks
only
so much
real
like Leonard Nimoy.
yeah, I mean, the only real change they made to it was the plastic that they're using on his barrel. That's the only
Mhm.
real change other than colors.
Yeah, where the barrel on the other version for the Siege Galvatron, it's a clear orange plastic, just like the original figure was, but for this one, they painted it. So,
Hmm. $55. I don't blame you for not double dipping.
nope. I mean, again, that is something that does turn me off. It's like, well, why am I gonna pay almost $30 for a Rumble?
Yeah, especially when that toy was only going for well, even at the height of it, it was only going for what was it, $13? I think it was like $12.99 at the
Hmm.
highest prices. They've recently started coming down on their core class figures again. I think they're back down to $10.99 or something like that.
Hmm.
Something around that. And that Metal Hawk, scroll back down right there. That guy. So he was somebody that was released in Takara only as
Hmm.
part of the Power Masters,
Yeah.
and they released him. And I had initially passed on that figure multitude of times because like I wasn't overly familiar. I knew who the character, the name, but I wasn't overly familiar with him. And then I started digging a little bit more into the background of the character. And I was like, well, maybe. And I wound up going to a Walmart and I got it on sale. No, I'm sorry, Ross. And I got it on sale at Ross for $14.99.
Hmm.
And I did a review, and it was actually a spectacular figure. Now, the crazy thing is, Vinny said he went into all places, and when I was a kid, this place never sold nothing but jackets. Burlington Coat Factory,
Oh
and they
yeah.
apparently sell toys in there, discounted. And he said he's seen this figure in there for $7.99. And I said, "Damn, for $7.99, it's a steal."
For seven ninety
Just
nine, I'm picking that sucker up.
R2. Oh, since when they start selling toys? I didn't know that.
I
I'll be
had
right back,
no
guys.
clue either. I know when he told me, I was like, "What?"
Huh.
It's another place I got to stop. Luckily, the one big Target we usually go to get guinea pig supplies and everything like that, because there's a Target, there's a Petco and everything like that. There's also a Ross, there's a Burlington Coat Factory, and there's a GameStop, all in this one complex. So like all these different places, I have all these different figures. Like it's just one stop.
He spends his entire weekend there. I mean, literally his entire weekend. Doesn't even come home.
Well, when I had
Camped
extra
out.
money, I was going back out to these places almost every other day. Yeah, really awesome too. Like I even compared it to the original figure, Mike, and the coloring is almost spot on to the original Takara version of that character. Like
Huh.
really incredible shit they did. Even down to his weapons. The original one had the same thing. The weapons, the fins poured it off his guns. Just incredible shit they did. And that's what I mean. Like Hasbro's one of those companies. Sometimes they'll get it right and they'll knock it out of the park, and then the next figure you get is like an absolute shit show.
Hmm. That sounds like an episode of Pop Talk. Wow. I never just myself. I just never realized there was just so many different variations, different companies doing this. And what is the preferred one? I suppose sometimes it depends on the person who likes which one better, and so on. And I think we lost Mike. Oh, Mike is returning. Okay. Did he eat himself?
It happens.
I know it does.
If it was one of our streams, it was probably somebody's internet. The internet gods were not merciful that day, and they kicked Mike off the stream. I'm not going to tell the truth and say it was a cybernetic guinea pig that just clipped his internet line. I'm not going to say that. I may imply
I think it was.
it.
I
Yeah,
think it
they're
was.
we're talking about tons of different companies doing it too, and especially when you've got
Mhm,
the main company not always giving the fans exactly what they want. That's where you get a lot of these third party companies stepping up and creating some like
mhm.
masterpieces that actually will blow some of the licensing owning companies out of the water. And one of those things was actually a transformer. Mike probably knows what I'm talking about. It was the Robosun, what Optimus Prime. So it's the Optimus Prime that is like an RC unit that you talk and it automatically transforms and it says lines and everything like that. It was from this company called I forget the name of it was called Roboson. I can't remember if that's the name of the company, but they were putting it out for
Yeah,
years.
yeah, that is the name of the company, Roboson.
Yeah, they were putting it out for years and selling really well. At uh, it was maybe $150 or something like that.
Hmm.
It was relatively low price. Hasbro's seen this. They're doing something 10 times better than we're doing right now. Let's just go ahead, license agreement, and throw freaking labels on it and put it in a box and let's sell it for over 300. Or did it even go up to 800? I forget. I remember they
It's
were
close to
ridiculous in
800
price.
now.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
don't even get me started on Megatron or even Grimlock.
But that's once again, that's like what Baron was talking about. All these different companies. There was another company doing their own thing, a version of an Optimus Prime, but not Optimus Prime. And doing it better than the licensing company. Now, granted, I'm not into the RC ones. That's not my thing. I personally prefer the puzzle aspect of Transformers. I like to
Hmm.
physically transform myself. So
Mhm.
something like that is not something. That's another thing I would not buy. It's neat for what it is, but it's just not for me.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I told Baron when I got Studio Series Optimus Prime for Christmas. I said I didn't look at the instructions. I figured it out on my own. I'm thinking, can I still do it? Transform it from vehicle mode to robot mode, or depending on the packaging, robot mode to vehicle mode without looking at the instructions.
I got stumped on a couple of the smaller pieces that you got to flip out of the way.
Hmm.
That's where I got stumped. Like all the main parts, like the origami with the back and then all that stuff. That wasn't a problem at all. I could figure that out. But there was a couple of small pieces you had to flip up out of the way. If you didn't flip them out of the way, you couldn't
Yeah.
get the pieces in their proper positioning. And that's where I had to look at it just for those small pieces. The rest of it was pretty decent.
Yeah. One of the things I was worried about when I was transforming Prime from robot mode to vehicle mode was actually when I was flipping the head back, and even though I had his antenna in the right position, trying to get it into the lock position, I was afraid if
You're
I
going to
push
clip
it.
and break them, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I had that same thing at first too, and I was looking at it, and I'm looking at the way everything sits into the cavity, and I was like, "Nah, it should be fine. I'm not going to worry about it."
Yeah.
Where I got a little bit worried is when you get down to the end and you flip those pieces off the back legs and roll them up at the covers that go over the
Hmm.
front wheel. Those
Yeah,
pieces,
yeah.
the way they bend out of the way to get into position, I did not like the engineering on that at all.
I was worried at that part because I was thinking, if I do this wrong, then I'm going to be out a $90 figure.
Mm.
And I do want to say hello to Red Snowman, who says the real morphine transformers are sick as fuck and only like
Mhm.
$200.
Hmm.
Hmm. But even I have my limit as far as what I'm willing to spend on even a masterpiece figure. It's like,
Mhm.
Well, I know some years back when they came out, it was basically a remold of the Devastator set, and it was
mhm.
called Tonkanator. So when they did that with the Tonka, colors and Tonka, stuff on it, even that was kind of like in my questionable mark because it was $105 or something for that set originally. And the only reason I wound up picking it up because my wife had a Target card and it was like I forget how much off. It only wound up being $75 for the set. I was like, okay, that's a little bit more palatable than
Yeah.
105.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. I mean, it just goes back to what I said earlier. Just because we're collectors and we like to collect certain things doesn't mean we're willing to go bankrupt doing it.
Absolutely not. That's one, I applaud a lot of these companies. It doesn't even just have to be toys; it could be other things when they're re-releasing movies and stuff like that. I applaud the companies that actually come back out with them and put them at an affordable price that everybody could be fine with getting and not feeling like they just got mugged like an old lady going down the street or something. Because some of these companies is like, God, man, I don't know what they're thinking to like just squeeze every last dime out of these people that they can, and let's hope we make it through the year. I mean, Jesus, Barron said it too. Lower the price a little bit, you sell more.
Hmm.
You may not sell it for as much, but you'll sell more at the lower price, and you will more than make up for whatever you think you're going to lose initially by lowering that price. And there's a lot of companies
Mm-hmm.
that started lowering prices, and they found out the profit range was a lot better. Mattel was one of those companies because some of the prices on some of their figures were starting to balloon a little bit out of control, and they scaled it back a little bit, made it a little bit more affordable, and it was like, okay, the stuff started moving again. But a
Hmm.
lot of these other companies like Hasbro, they don't want to hear it. NECA,
No.
NECA is a big like, yes, we're gonna put out amazing shit, but we're gonna rake you over the coals. It's bad with some of the pricing. Like I think an average on the NECA figure now is closer to the $36 range, where at one point back in like just 2020, just 5 years ago, those things were sitting around $20. It
Yeah.
was like 1999 or something like that. It's just insane, just insane.
I mean, again, you look at the prices of some of these figures, and it's like, well, I have to go to the grocery store, and I'll be spending that much at the grocery store for food and stuff.
Yeah, it's not good.
So, what do I want? Do I want food on the table, or do I want to transform my collection? Well, most of the time, I'll pick
Yeah.
the food on my table.
Food is overrated. You know that. Transformers, no.
Well, you got
I,
to look at it this way: during the hard winter months, how much extra weight do you pack on? If you pack on enough, then you might be able to forego eating for a while to get that transformer.
Yeah, be like a hibernate, man. Hibernate. Like I do.
but
He's thinking about it.
no, no, not really thinking about it, but you do. As you get older, yeah, you love collecting whatever it is you collect. I mean, Baron, you got books galore on your bookshelf
Yep.
because that's what you like to collect. But
Hmm.
I'm sure even you've gotten to a point where you say, "I would love to have this book, but I can't right now."
Oh, I have. I have already. I mean, I look at it going, "Oh, I wish I could. I wish I could have the excuse." I try to find every viable excuse in my head, and I just can't justify it. And it's like, oh well, I hope maybe down the road I'll have this opportunity again. If
Hmm.
not, well, it's not going to kill me. Oh,
No.
maybe it will, but
Yeah, well, you get and getting collected certain books too, and you getting picking up
Mhm,
certain series of books, and you're looking at them sometimes, and the budget's
mhm,
tight, and you're looking, man, that hardcover looks incredible. I
Hmm.
mhm,
can't justify it, and you wind up just getting the freaking paperback instead.
yeah. At least you have it in your collection. At least you can read it. At least it's there. And maybe the paperback is better. That you don't have to worry about, oh, I don't want to get damaged. I don't want, this, that, pages torn. Not so much with the paperback.
And Red Snom over on Rumble says he did pick up the Nerf Aliens pulse rifle from Hasbro. It was the cheapest life size replica available.
Nice.
Oh, people can do miracles with stuff like that. I've seen them. It's
Yeah.
like, basically you got the shell. Now, it's like, well, we might have to do some paint or whatnot. And before you know it, it's like, it looks like it's right out of the movie. At worst, a stunt prop. At best, looks like something that you'd see Sigourney Weaver have.
I mean, I've even seen people, with the printers, the 3D printers,
Yeah.
like DJ Ronnie G has. They make their own Transformers and Transformers accessories.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Just like they make the miniatures for like Warhammer or other games or model kits. I mean, they want to have their custom made Millennium Falcon, YT 1300. Or yeah, it's the 3D printers are a dream if you know how to use them. I don't. I'm a luddite.
I mean, the only problem that you can have with those, and I know a few people that have done some 3D printing. It's the type of printing material that's made available to the general public is usually
Mm-hmm.
not as durable as some of the stuff that you get from the injection molded plastic.
You know.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And real quick, I will welcome in somebody who has just shown up.
One shall stand, one shall fall. Why throw away your life so recklessly?
And he disappeared.
He vanished.
Yeah. Didn't you hear that? He took off. Boom. Did you see that? Boom.
I did see that. He was here, then he
Yeah.
was gone.
All that was left was his tinkles.
I'm so sorry. It's not the collective's fault. One of the pigs mistook him as an intruder, and they turned on the eye blast and they disintegrated him. We're working to reverse it, Cash. Just hold on. We're going to pull your atoms out. I promise.
Yeah, yes, ladies and gentlemen, Cash was backstage. I was ready to admit it, and then he just just
Mhm.
abandoned us.
I know. Well, see, he heard it, the signal came out to him, and he had to rush out there, folks. He had to rush out there and keep integrity alive.
He's fixing his sound. That's why he left.
Oh, yeah, I got sound. I don't have sound. Maybe I have sound.
But Tommy, I do want to ask you about Cage Talks. What's that all about?
So basically, I started Cage Talks is a way just to reach out to other creators so they can kind of tell their side of the story. Just there he is. I told you the guinea pigs were working to bring his atoms back. We're sorry that we smashed your atoms into bits and you were floating through space, Cash.
That's
I'm
okay,
not.
Tommy.
The pigs are uncontrollable, man. It's not my fault.
It's all Baron's fault. It's fine.
It is, huh?
Yes.
To you.
Yeah, so basically, yeah, what we do is we bring other creators on so they can just let everybody know. So if somebody's not subscribed to them or somebody wants to find out what they're all about, this is just a quick way to get into a conversation with other creators. Just go out there and let people know what they're all about that are not watching them or maybe are watching, want to learn a little bit more about them. So we get into discussions about everything about their channel, how they started it, what they want to do moving forward, what they may add, like all just kind of stuff like that. And it's all centric around the creator. It's not about me. I know I'm an egomaniac, but no, it's not all about the pigs on that one. And well, other than pigs being in the title of it, being Cage Talks, and the icons being on the channel, then again, maybe it is all about the pigs. No, but it's all about the creator that I have on to talk, and what they want to convey to the people that are watching to entice them to watch, or like I said, maybe just learn a little bit more about them. Just a fun conversation to have a little one-on-one chat with people. Sometimes with people I don't always have the chance to talk one-on-one with. Sometimes it's people that I talk with all the time, and let's just wring a little bit more information out of you and see if I can embarrass you on a freaking live stream. I mean, just to talk with them on a live stream.
I'm embarrassed.
Try to goad them into talking a little more instead of just going, yes, I like it. It's Babylon 5. It's Babylon 5. It's good.
It's good.
It's good.
It's
Yeah,
the
yeah, that's
best.
what it is. Yeah.
Anything else? No, it's good. It's good.
It's good. Yeah, it's Babylon 5. It's good. Yeah.
But that's one thing I've even enjoyed here on Pop Talk is being able to talk to other creators like yourself. We've all been doing this a certain amount of time, some longer than others and some shorter than others, but it's always something that I've wanted to do even as a kid is being able to interview people, and YouTube gives us the platform to do it.
And that's without a doubt. And and I've said this before, there are a lot of hangups with the way they run YouTube. There's no
Yeah.
question about that. And anybody who says there's no problems with it, they're fooling themselves, or they got their head stuck up there. No, I'm not going to say it. I'm going to be good. I promised myself I was going to be good. But they do give you this opportunity to reach out. And one of the things I always said about YouTube gives you the ability to reach out to people you maybe normally wouldn't have been able to connect with, even
Mhm.
within your own state. There might be people that normally you would have never been able to connect with, but on platforms like whether it's Rumble, whether it's YouTube, whether it's X, it gives you that ability to start reaching out to people like well beyond the scope that you ever thought possible. So there is always that positive to it. It's just, once again, it's just the people behind the scenes that make it difficult for people to come on here and have a good time. And I've always said I come on here to have a good time and
Mhm.
just have fun and be myself, and that's all I'm ever going to be. I mean, some people can take that or they can't take that. That, once again, not my problem. you know but it still gives you that ability to reach out and have a little bit of fun and connect with other people and everything. Whether, for me, whether it's like sharing the BattleBot stuff, the guinea pigs, movies, or I'm doing, of course, the toy reviews. Being able to reach out to people that have the same interest and be able to have those discussions about like maybe certain figures or something like that, what they liked or didn't like, or movies or whatever. It gives us that ability to do it. I just wish that these
Mhm.
people would just calm down with the horse shit. I mean, that's all they really need to do. Just dial it back a little bit.
Yeah, and even Redstone brings up over on the Rumble side. Sadly, you're getting identical traction on Rumble as you do on YouTube. Both platforms, and I'm going to say it, both platforms do favor certain creators over others. There's no doubt.
It's absolutely true. I mean, and that's why you get people that wind up chasing the algorithm. And I've always been of the mindset I'm not going to chase the algorithm. If what I'm doing is enjoyed, sooner or later, it's going to get through the
Hmm.
algorithm. And I've been at this a good number of years and I haven't changed my approach to it. I'm going to do what I enjoy doing. I'm not going to beat my brain against the wall like a kid in school against the desk trying to figure out how to beat YouTube's algorithm. Every once in a while, I might play with it. Like I did when I got, for the longest time, my channel was stuck for probably a good 3 years or better. It was stuck at under 500 subs. And every time I started getting over it, YouTube just took my legs out and dropped me under 500 again. Like one time they took well over, I think it was actually close to, I know it was over 160 subs, but I think it was closer to 200 subs in one night. They just wiped out from under me. And I was well under 500 again. I was like, son of a bitch. But I wound up using the battle bots. So doing the little Hexbug battle bots battles and everything,
Hmm.
I used that to actually build my channel up. And in a very short window of time, I flooded the YouTube algorithm with BattleBot videos to find a way to sneak past their blocking of my channel in the algorithm, and it worked for a while, and it worked well enough that I was able to, amass a decent amount of subs. I've been
Hmm.
stuck at 1900 something for a long time, and they keep undercutting my channel week by week, dropping subs off. But I mean, I've still stayed right in that 1900, trying to push past that 2000 eventually. But I've done it my way, and I didn't cave to YouTube and give them exactly what they want, nor did I chase the algorithm and look for other sneaky ways to get around it. I just did what I always do. And I've met a lot of really good people on this platform. I've made
Hmm.
friends off this platform. So I mean, they're still positive even with the negatives. So
Then he met
Yeah,
us.
because for one of my streams, and it was me playing Rise of the Tomb Raider, that got a lot of traction. I didn't do a lot as far as the keywords and everything. I kept the description pretty basic, but just the fact that I was playing the game, I had one particular stream. It was part 3 of that Rise of the Tomb Raider stream where I just started seeing the numbers going up there in the live stream. I'm going, okay, what's going on? And it was all these people who love the game and they wanted to see somebody play it. So,
and that's the thing too. You're doing something you enjoy, and you just never know.
mhm.
Too, you just never know. It's just could be something that you normally do all the time, and maybe just for some reason it gets past whatever normal blocks that YouTube puts on shit, where they
Mhm.
kind of shadow ban people that are not, high profile creators, and it just slips past and it blows up, and you never know. I've seen channels where they've just one video for no particular reason, and their channel would just blow up, and they could have been sitting like that for a few years, like struggling trying to figure out what to do, and it's just doing the same thing they always do, and it's just that one video. You just never
Mhm.
know. So I
That's
mean,
all it takes.
and number one is always go on here and do what you want to do and have fun doing it every single time.
Mhm.
When it becomes a chore, it's either time to take a step back and reevaluate, or if it's too much of a pain, just stop doing it. If it's going to irritate you and you're going to drive yourself insane.
Yeah, I don't know about you, but and I'm going to ask you this: have you ever gotten to a point where you thought to yourself, "I'm going to take a step back for maybe a couple weeks, maybe a few days, recharge
There,
my batteries, and go
there
back
there's
at it"?
there's been a few times, but mostly it's injury related. The stuff with YouTube has always irritated me. Like I said, like I can't remember if it's 6 or 7 years that I've had my channel up now. I can't even remember because I just don't pay attention to it. I know some people, they do the anniversary streams and everything. I never cared about that. Whenever I did any kind of celebration, it was always about the people in the chat instead. So I mean, because they're the only reason why I'm able to keep having fun doing those streams. All the
Mhm.
people that are showing up and all the hilarious shit that they may say in the chat sometimes, or the questions that they ask and everything. That's the things that keep me having fun. The comments on the videos, of course, as well, is just amazing shit, and I do my absolute utmost to respond to every single one of them, because if they could take the time to write a comment on my video, I should be able to take the time to respond to it. And that's just the way it is. And I wouldn't give a shit if I had a million comments on a video. I don't care if it took me a week, I would respond to every single one of them. That's just the way I think it should be. But yeah, it's always about having fun first. Always.
Mhm. Yeah, and you can find ways of having fun, whether it be like what you do with the reviews of the different figures, having your toy collector show every Thursday, or even having the one-on-one chat with other creators. You've got to have fun. And yes, I will say that even if you come here and you hear me cursing and ranting and raving when I'm playing the game, I'm still having fun playing the game. I'm more determined to beat the game if I'm, dying, cursing, ranting, and raving, but trust me, I'm having fun.
Well, it's like the old days playing video games when you take that controller, that wired controller, and toss it across the room. You were still having fun.
Yeah.
Maybe not so much when you picked up your controllers in pieces and you're like, Mom, I need a new controller.
Well, maybe if you didn't throw it across the room, you wouldn't need a new controller.
Yeah. Better break out the duct tape, kid.
Yeah. The other thing that goes on with the streaming, of course, is, and I know Mike had to deal with this as well, that even during that Tomb Raider stream, like there's people who just want to bot, and then they bot you. They're with X or Twix or Twitter. I just want to call it Twitter or Twix, but
Twix.
and then those people are gone, so they're botting your channel, which is it's crazy. And then there's other people who are watching it, like, but then there's other bots. It's still growth, and hopefully it'll help. But I remember, Mike, that there was, of course, that botting problem with the Tomb Raider
Yep.
stuff. That was
Yeah,
crazy.
there was.
Yeah.
It didn't happen in every stream, but there were
No.
streams where there were bots in it. And, again, part three, it had, of that Rise of the Tomb Raider stream, it had some actual people that were actually interacting. But I was even
Yep.
telling Cass that I had a feeling that the rest of them were bots. Even when we did Pop Talk a few times, we would all of a sudden see the numbers going up, but nobody was actually saying anything in the chat. And I was trying to, prod people if they were actually listening. Say something. We don't bite.
Yeah, really.
Well, I mean, maybe it's just me. I think a lot of that is come back to kind of like the rise of like podcasting again,
Hmm.
and people just listening in and not responding.
Yeah.
I think a lot of that may attribute to that, and it may even be like I said, like my early days on YouTube. I didn't really chat that much. I just stopped on to watch the show and see what people were talking about and everything like that. I might
Hmm.
read some of the chat, but like early on, I didn't care about responding. I was like, I don't know these people really well. I don't, After a while of getting to know some of the same people all the time is when I started chatting with them. But and then once I did that, they couldn't shut me up.
Well, it's just, and it was funny also on Twitch. I know like there was some rule that people made, like don't call out lurkers and stuff, and it's like people would do that and then they would leave, and it's just, I don't know. People get funny about all kinds of stuff on streaming. It's funny. They ask you things like, "Hey, what were you doing before?" Well, I did this. Don't advertise this. It's like, but you just asked me what I was doing.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, are these the wrong words that we're supposed to use? I remember when Tommy, I was at the 2016 TwitchCon and stuff, and I remember some of the people that I had been streaming with for a while, and we watch each other and then hang out in Discord, and then we got a number of us got to meet. It was like, oh, don't just so you know, this is a big time streamer. Like, don't be. It's like, oh, okay, what? Like it's just, it's so funny like the way people act about these things, and then after you come back from the convention you find out, man, some of these people really were not the best. They seem cool at first, and then you, of course, just like a lot of people, you find out this is not too good.
I'm sure you've seen it too. I know Mike has seen it too. You get certain people that get on these type of platforms online, and they get the swole head about it, and they just
Yes.
think, they start thinking that they're better than everybody else.
Right.
Hmm.
Right.
And
Right.
I've seen that numerous times over the years, and I've actually cut ties with some people. I just don't want to have anything to do with them anymore because of those
No.
type of freaking egocentric attitudes. I got no patience for it, and I definitely don't have no time for it. My channel and everything that I do is pretty much like an open door for most people. Unless you really, really go out of your way to agitate me, I don't have a problem with people coming on. Even people I don't necessarily say that I have a great friendship with or a great relationship with. I would even have some of those people on, as long as you're just not there to agitate me. And if you're there to agitate me, then you get the bitter, nasty pig, and nobody wants to see that. Adam Shawhan has tried warning people about that. Don't get the nasty pig. You don't want them.
Well, if Adam misbehaves himself, just have the pigs take care of him, so it's fine.
Yeah, but see,
Wiener
here's
dog
the thing,
clan-
and
Wiener
and
dog
I ho-
clan
and
and Guinea Pig
I,
Collective have a ceasefire, so we're all good.
I was just gonna say, the guinea pig's gonna attack Adam, but Adam's got wiener dogs, so
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh, that's true.
But we did
Mhm.
work out a joint task force where if the need arises, the guinea pigs will ride the wiener dogs into battle, and it will be a glorious sight.
It would be, yeah. As a winter dog owner, I can attest to that.
so in other words, you don't want to hear this from either the wiener dogs or the guinea pigs.
He said, "Today is a good day to die."
Kapla!
Something like that.
Yeah, I mean, you do. You meet some wonderful people on this platform who you enjoy streaming with, and then you meet people you go, I don't know, maybe it's because I don't know that person that well, maybe I just need to get to know them a little better, and you know you can pretty much decide from there whether you're going to stream with them again, or you can stream with somebody one time and go, yeah, that's so one and only time. I'm sure people have felt that way about me.
Well, I mean, not everybody's going to get along. I mean,
No,
so many
no.
different types of personalities and everything like that. Some people, you just say the wrong words in a sentence and they might get offended by it, and then like, yeah, real asshole. Well, look, man, I told you I was an asshole to begin with, but I'm a reasonable asshole.
Yeah, I see you in there, Kilted. I see you in there.
Yeah. Now,
You're
yeah, that's an unreasonable asshole right there.
and hello, Lady Miss.
How many
and
assholes
there's
we
a
got
fun
on this
person.
ship anyhow? I knew it. I'm surrounded by assholes.
I just thought that was appropriate.
It's such a great clip. I've used it plenty of times because, well, yeah, we do have a dark helmet in the Guinea Pig Collective. So
Mhm.
Yeah, and that kilted guy, Baron and I did not used to like him. We were like, "Who is this douche?" And then he kind of grew on us like a fungus.
What do you mean used to not? What do you mean used to not?
Oh, okay.
What are you talking about?
I can feel the love in the room.
Love is in the
You guys need a moment? I mean, I could leave and
air.
give you that moment if you need it.
Oh man.
But yeah, I mean, even with some of the negative aspects of doing this, if you focus on the positive aspects and remember the crucial thing of having fun, that's what it's all about, is having fun.
Well, I mean, absolutely, and I've talked about this a few times already. Like the interaction with some of the people that stop by, and whether it's like watching the live streams or it's commenting on videos. I've had a few times when I felt really down in the dumps with the kind of games that YouTube's playing with my channel over and over and over again
Mm-hmm.
over the past X amount of years. And sometimes it's just that one comment from somebody on one of my videos that it really does, change my whole outlook on the day.
Hmm.
Gives me a big smile on my face, like, damn, that's the kind of thing that I just really needed today. A comment like that. So, I mean, like you're saying, there's a lot of bad aspects. I've said it, but there's still a lot of good aspects with a lot of these online things. And 9 times out of 10 for me, it really is. Besides just the people that I'm able to hang out and talk with, like you guys, like Vinny, Slasher, Trina, Adam, and all these other people that I've been associated with over the years and hung out on their channels, like ETEP and all these other people, Monotony,
Hmm.
like really incredible people. And those are the moments that actually make it all worthwhile. Like even putting up with all the nonsense from YouTube, all the games that they play, whether it's the copyright strikes, or copyright claims, or all the other dumb shit. Or if you ever had a video taken down, I had a video taken down early on because apparently I offended a bunch of people, and I will not apologize for it. And
Yeah,
YouTube got very upset.
I, I had one that was taken down. It was when I was covering a lot of Cubs baseball and stuff and doing my recaps back in the past. And there was one particular game where the Cubs were playing the then Cleveland Indians. And somebody got offended that I was using the word Indians. It's like, well, the Cubs were playing the Indians, so what do you want me to do? And I had to appeal it. I said to YouTube, I said, at the time this video was made, this particular team was known as the Cleveland Indians.
Who cares? The Cleveland Indians is a better name, so whatever. Fuck you, YouTube. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that really does inspire me to want to do something to see if I can offend YouTube again. Like maybe I'll break out some of them old school Cowboys and well, I don't want to get you in trouble. Cowboys and Native American figures that they made back in the day, and call them what they really supposed to be called, and just show them off on the toy string.
There we go.
Very good.
I mean, let's face it, Tommy. I've even told Cash and Baron this. I've told other people this. When I refer to the 2016 World Series, I'm not going to say it was the Cubs and Guardians because that's not what Cleveland was known as at the time. They were the Cleveland Indians. Who did the Cubs beat in 7 games? The Cleveland Indians.
And yeah, we got cut off.
No.
I find it amazing for all the things that you could do with all the technology that we have right now. I mean, I grew up in the age when computers were just getting introduced, really, as,
Mhm.
for household and everything like that. So, to see where we are now, and for all the things that people could do and find joy in, they go out of their way to be upset about shit. It's just it's
Well,
hilarious.
of course, because it's like they're programmed. How dare you say this? How dare you say that? How dare you say this? It's well, this is
How,
factual, so your feelings don't
how
matter.
dare you?
How
How
dare you?
dare you?
I want to cancel you. You're a horrible person. Why did you say that? Why can't you be more positive? You're awful. How could you say that about this? This game is amazing. This entertainment is amazing. Um, I had a conversation recently, and I had some friends telling me, I don't think you've ever talked to Crit, Tommy, or maybe you know of Crit, but maybe I don't know if you've ever talked to him. But
I'm not sure. I might have run across him, but the name's not ringing a bell right now.
and that troll Phil McCracken was watching it with us too, and we were excited about season 2 of Arcane, and we watched it, and we went, "What the fuck is this?" And other people that you talk to, they all have mixed feelings. But then oh, that show was so amazing. It's like, that's fine, you feel that way, but it's just like, what exactly was amazing about it? They change these characters. They make these characters seem like they're supposed to be gay when they're not. Well, it's just it's so Kilted still. That's right, Kilted like that too. Kilted and I would get an argument about that as well. But really, like, season 1 was just so much better to me, Tommy, and I had so high expectations because I want these shows to be amazing. Not you, Kilted. It was somebody else. That's funny though.
I get how you feel about that. I
I
watched the first season and I was just kind of meh. I knew nothing about the game, so it didn't really resonate with me.
yeah, I get that, man.
Yeah, but
And
my buddy Vinny and some of the other guys, they were doing reviews on both seasons of Arcane, and they were talking about how they absolutely loved it. I was like, look, dude, I said, I'm gonna be honest. I'm usually part of his Sunday stream, so I said, look, I'm taking off for a while. I said, I don't like Arcane, and I damn sure don't want to sit there for a few hours talking about a show I don't like.
yeah, man. Yeah,
But there's no hard feelings between either of us either. So I think there's a bit of difference, but people have a little bit of common sense. Okay, well, not everybody's going to like it. Not
yeah,
everybody,
no, but they
care
get
about it.
mad at you because you like something that they don't. My favorite one is that people get very antsy about if you mock something that they like. It's like, I don't. It doesn't mean that I hate the person who likes it, but I can't stop mocking these decisions because they're so idiotic, and they could be so much better. If they do a really good job, say with the live action of Voltron, if they actually follow what the original cartoon was, then they deserve to be applauded for that. But we have no idea. And I think is this Amazon that uh, it's tied to Voltron, or was it Netflix? I thought it was Netflix, wasn't it? I think it's
I
Netflix.
thought it was Amazon, but
Maybe it's
let me
Amazon.
look that up. Let me look that up real quick.
But it's like, you have high expectations for this stuff, and then you watch something Tommy like the Penguin, and you're like, wow, dude, this show is really fucking good. I actually think this is better than the Batman. It was just a really good show, and it's like, is this just a one and done kind of thing, or we actually going to get more of this? This seems like a really good direction again for DC.
Yeah, and see, I hated the Batman. What
Hmm.
all my being, I tried watching it. I even sat through it because my brother, who's I've been taking care of and staying here, he wanted to watch it, so I sat through it partially a second time, and I hated it even more. But then I watched the Penguin, and I was like, I was surprised at how good
Hmm.
it was. I was like, okay, this is
Hmm.
enjoyable. I don't feel like he's the Penguin, really. From
Okay.
what my earliest memories of what the character was like. He doesn't really feel like the Penguin, but I get what they're going with, and I didn't mind it so much in the
Yeah.
context of what they were doing in the show. And I know they did say that they were working on another season of it. So I think
Penguin meets Sopranos. It
yeah,
was.
yeah, it's definitely
Mhm.
an interesting take. It just doesn't feel like the classic Penguin. That's all. That's my
That's
only
fair.
gripe with it. That's it. But he feels more like the Penguin, I will say, than Danny DeVito in Batman Returns.
He didn't
Hey
eat
man,
it. He didn't eat anybody's nose, so that's good.
and real quick, it is Amazon MGM Studios that's
Okay.
distributing the live action Voltron.
Okay.
Now, I think if there's people out there that have even a moderate love for these franchises, they're going to try to do it right, even if they make changes. And I think that's the caveat on a lot of these discussions about that stuff is these people don't have enough love for it and they don't want to try to do something that's going to appease everybody in the room.
Yeah.
That's always their problem.
Yeah, and it's just I'm glad certain things and this stuff makes people exciting, or they're excited about it. I heard the new Spider-Man show, even from Kilted and somebody else. Jace was saying how much he liked it, but there's just certain things I just don't care about watching. I'm probably going to watch that Daredevil show. I heard some really good things about that, so I'm probably going to try that. But um, I have certain standards, just like anybody, Tommy. And if they don't fill those, it's just really hard for me to say this is amazing. Because to me, like when I played something like Final Fantasy VII, the original, like that was amazing. That's still amazing. And then the fact that somebody actually modded it and made it even more amazing and added they added voices. It's an absolutely incredible. And I'm just like that to me was just absolutely amazing. And so I just when I see standards like that, the first Turtles film, even the second one, because I was such a young kid when that came out. Uh, I just it's like it has a special place in your heart. And so when people go out of their way to insult this stuff, it really is aggravating.
It is one of the discussions we had earlier on about like older films and how
Yeah.
well acted some of the older films are, and that is one of the things it's like it's almost a pet peeve of mine. It's one of those little phrases that I just cannot stand here. Made for modern audiences. You know what? There's nothing wrong with a lot of the originals. They do not need to be remade. That people can enjoy them exactly for what they were. They are not dated. Most of them. I'm not saying all of them aren't. There's a few that are a bit dated, but most of them are not really dated in the context of what they were made for, and they don't really need a remake. They don't need a modern spin on it to make it entertaining. Just the whole idea of entertainment is just to entertain, so people can kind of escape the everyday world. Not let's delve into it and jam all this agenda crap or whatever else they want to jam into it just for the sake of putting their argument out there on film. We don't need it. It's supposed to be entertainment. Stick to that. Same thing with the toy companies. Stick to making good toys. Stop putting garbage into this shit. It's simple.
Yes.
I mean, there's no reason to put identity politics in Transformers like they have.
No.
And that started with IDW. Like their later runs of the IDW, they were adding that shit in left and right, and you could see the downfall of that stuff. And the crazy thing was, is Hasbro pulled their license because they seen the downturn in sales from all the agenda crap IDW is putting in there. And then what did they do? They turned around and they put it into some of their shows and movies. Like, did you not just learn the lesson that you self-corrected from? And then you wonder why your toy sales are tanking.
Yeah,
it's bonehead decisions.
Yeah.
Stupid decisions.
They're stupid. And these toys should be well made too. They shouldn't feel cheap.
They shouldn't. And I've talked about that plenty of times. Vinny has talked about that on toy streams. The cost for these figures, they're getting ridiculous. A lot of them. I mean, they're pretty damn pricey when you look at, as opposed to other things that you could spend that money. Like Mike has said plenty of times, food. Am I going to get food or am I going to buy this one figure? I mean, it's gotten to that point and they're so overpriced. And then a lot of times the quality is not even there, which further infuriates people. When I get infuriated enough with one of those figures that I was buying, if it was horrible enough, I would just take the shit right back to the store. I want my money back. What's wrong with it? It's a piece of shit. I'll just be honest with them. It's garbage. I'm not. I want my money back.
Yeah, it's poor quality. I spent money on this $25, or in some cases over $50 on this, and it's poor quality. I want my money back.
Yep. And I think that's what more people probably should do with a lot of this stuff. But like I said earlier, you get certain people that no matter what these companies put out, no matter how trash it is, they're going to sit there and just, oh, they're the greatest ever. Like, oh, please, you're being a bullshit artist. You're not giving people like truth, and that kind of shit I just can't stand. Just be honest with people. If it's got issues, say it's got issues. If it's still decent enough to buy, you can still say that without sitting there and simping out for these companies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and some of these people that are praising the product, well, they were given a free product by the company so they can review it.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And they want to be on their good graces, so of course they're gonna pull smoke.
Yeah, I would love to be able to review figures that a toy company sent, but I mean, there's the caveat with that. I'm going to give you an honest opinion of it.
Mhm.
I'm going to have integrity during my review, so I don't give a shit if you send me a free product or not, man. If it's not up to my freaking standards, I'm going to say everything is wrong with it. Nah, it's just the way it is. I'm sure that product endorsement wouldn't last very long with somebody like me.
Yeah, even some of the people like who would shill for this stuff and getting paid, or they get a free product key. They're like, I can't do this. I can't say that this is a great product. And the customers, uh, when they just, if you want mediocre, then these people are going to give you mediocre. If you want greatness, then you should strive for wanting the greatness. But games now, $70, this and that, other stuff, and then on top of it, you've got to pay for the DLCs. You got to pay for this, pay for that. I mean, even though stuff like Fortnite was sued to hell a few times, they have so much money that they just keep going like a train. Uh, so
Well, another bad thing about games where they've kind of gotten away from you're getting a complete game when you buy it.
mhm.
The minute you take it home, you need to download to even be able to play it. And I remember one of the first games that I'd got where it was like that was GTA 5. You couldn't even
Mhm.
play it without downloading like what was it, like 8 gigabytes worth of information just to play the damn game. So they're selling you an incomplete game essentially. They're telling you we own your game, even though you bought it. You don't own it. We own it because we own all the digital content that you had to download to play it. And I find that to be horseshit as well. And it's kind of why I stopped buying console stuff for that reason. I just got tired of that. Hey, if I'm buying this, I want it to be mine. I don't want it to be, oh, we decided to discontinue everything affiliated with that game so you can't play it anymore. That's why I kind
Well,
of stepped away from a lot of it.
I think the way consoles are now, they should be find them on sale. Don't pay full price. I don't think they're worth full price. You don't get enough first party games or whatever for them, and that's what the whole draw was. At least it was for me. I'm sure a lot of other people. Oh, I get another game, and it's a first party, and it was good. But now with PS5 and Microsoft, but then Microsoft have Game Pass, and people want to say what they want about it, but you can get that everywhere on your phone, on your tablet, on this, on that, on that. That was a smart thing that Microsoft did. I got to give them credit. Plus the fact that if you like the game enough, then you can go buy it. And we're spoiled every year anyways. We can always find places to get games for cheaper prices. So I figure, why not save people money on stuff so they don't have to pay these full prices for these games?
Well, that's why I was happy with the deal I found last week with Rise of the Ronin, finding it on
Mm-hmm.
sale at a good price.
Yeah.
I know it's coming out for PC next week, but I found it for PS5 for a good price, and it was $39.99. So I said, okay, I can spend $40 on this game and get enjoyment out of it.
And he did.
Yeah, I've played it a little bit. I do plan to stream it, but that's for another time.
Yeah, it looks
It's
good.
it's one of the things that I'm glad and I'm kind of grateful that somehow GameStop has managed to stay in business, because I think if you see them fall, you may see the end of the physical media game, and I think that would
Close
be
to it, yeah.
I mean, I've already heard some places like Walmart and some of these other ones are starting to pull all their physical media. I mean, Best Buy was the first one to do it. They pulled
Yeah,
everything fit.
I talked to them about it, and they said, "Well, people weren't buying it, so people were buying it." I said, "Well, yeah, that is a problem. That if people
I,
did stop buying it, but I would think there would still be people out there who buy physical media. If there wasn't, then there's these other places you can still get physical media. But Amazon, and it's just like, what choices do I have? And Amazon has a lot of stuff, but they don't
Mhm.
have everything. And so then eBay can help you out with some things. Thank goodness for eBay and Amazon to an extent, but having more choices is always the best idea.
Always. And like Lady Missy still has her first PlayStation game player, so I can play the games I bought to play on it. Yeah, and I know, and this started all the way back in like 2014. I sold some for my brother, so he had the old Sega Saturn games, and there was like this big resurgence for some of these older game systems and a lot of the older gamer discs, and you just would not imagine some of the prices they were selling to sometimes a couple $100 a disc for those older games because people
Mhm.
love those old physical formatted games and the way they were made. Here's something that you don't need online. You don't need this, that, and the other thing to be able to play it. You just pop it in and have some freaking fun. And you're still seeing a little bit of that with some of these other systems, like with the Nintendo 64, and especially like harder to come by games that were kind of like swamped by the industry and put on like a blacklist, like Conkers and stuff like that. Like it's kind
Mhm.
of difficult to
Yeah.
find that game at a halfway decent price now. And who would have thought back in the day that that goofy little Conkers game would be worth money today? But it is.
Oh yeah. Yes, that was a yeah,
I
that
mean, I still have all my PlayStation games, and I still have the console too. I mean, let's face it. With the way games are now, sometimes it's good to go back to the classics and remember how fun they were, or even sit down and say, "I'm going to finally beat this game after all these years."
Some of those games were just so much fun in the way they were created, like bad graphics
Hmm.
and all. It's always fun to go back and play. I had found myself going back numerous times over the years when I still had the ability to get on and play it. I would play the old GTA San Andreas. Graphics in that, like compared to today, absolutely horrible. But it's such a
it's still
damn fun
decent
game.
though. It's still
Yeah,
decent though, and you can use mods and stuff if you want to update the graphics. That takes work, but it can be worth it.
It can be.
Hmm.
It can, and that. I think this was a lot of fun. I really do appreciate you taking time out of your Wednesday evening to join us tonight, Tommy.
no, my pleasure, my pleasure. As like I said, let me know in advance so I can kind of plan around it. I wish I
Mhm.
could have planned better, but then again, I didn't expect poor Rorschach to have health issues. So it is what it is. Got to make sure the piggy's taken care of the best I can.
Probably
Definitely. I
will.
mean, you love them so much, and like any pet, they become part of the family, and you want to make sure that when they're dealing with anything like an infection, that you get them the treatment they need.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, and they'll like yeah, they're my buddies. So
Yeah.
and they're in pain. I am not a happy camper. So
So before we go here, Tommy, is there anything that you'd like to promote on your channel? Anyone that you'd like to promote? And
there's really nothing that I want to promote really big or anything. If people have time, stop by tomorrow for the toy stream, collectible pass with Vinny Art and both myself and Trina, Slasher, and Adam as we sit there and we talk about some of the toys that we may have just picked up and we're going to be talking about and as far as doing reviews. I do a lot of talks on a lot of the older franchises that I always think need to love, like and you mentioned earlier you were talking about Centaurians. It's actually one of the
Mhm.
franchises I know about, but I don't have a lot of firsthand knowledge because I never had any of them myself. By the time they came out, I was I was doing like odd jobs trying to make extra money, so I wasn't always keeping up on all the newer franchises that are coming out. So I knew of them, just wasn't overly familiar with them. So I actually have somebody going to reach out to Godzillionaire that offered to give me a whole slew of information about Centaurians. I got to reach out to him, and eventually we're going to be bringing that on Collectible Pass. But other than that, who knows what I'm going to do? We do a lot of fun stuff on Collectible Passes. Like I said, as far as the old stuff in the newer reviews and showing love to the franchise where they absolutely deserve it, or we pick things apart that absolutely should be picked apart by everybody else. It's just the way it is. It's integrity. When we give reviews to people, we want to be able to give them concise information to determine whether or not that they want to actually invest their money and time to go look for these certain collectible figures. And I think that's the way it should always be. Have integrity, people. Have a little bit of integrity. It's not going to kill you. As far as everybody here on the panel, thank you all for having me. The most hated guinea pig online, period, at all, anywhere. These sons of bitches really do hate me. And all the people in the chat that were hanging out watching with us, thank you all for spending your time here. You could have chose to spend your time anywhere. You chose to spend it here at us. It is greatly appreciated. Remember, never let anybody tell you what you can and can't say, what you should or should not think, because your silence and compliance gives consent. And that's what a horrible pig has to say. Thank you, Mike.
You're welcome. And yeah, again, I can't say it enough, Tommy. I appreciate you taking the time. I know we've been trying to work on this for a while, and it is one of those things where you do have to plan in advance as far as who you want to have on your show. On one particular day, one particular week. And again, I can't say it enough. I'm grateful to have met you, and grateful to have been able to do something like this tonight.
I appreciate it, Mike. Like I said, I always said, as long as I don't have things crazy going on in my life, man, I'm more than willing to show up and happy to show up here. You guys are awesome, man. Someday, I know we've talked about it before. Someday I'll have to get you guys on Cage Talks. You just let me know what your schedules are like. That I work around everybody's schedule. Go on and have a little bit of fun, and we'll talk about you. And I'll make it all about you and make you uncomfortable.
There we go.
I look at it like this: turnabout's fair play.
Definitely. Oh, they love you, Tommy. They love you.
Our assimilations will continue until morale improves.
So, before we do get out of here, Cash, Baron, I know you guys probably have something that you'd like to promote.
Just had to get some stuff done, so I don't have anything yet to promote. There may be some surprises, but I don't have anything yet. So, unfortunately.
Okay.
I might teach in a few days, but yeah.
How about you, Baron?
No, geez. Let me think here. I mean, I do know what Cash was doing, but
No.
catch me and hopefully Cash tomorrow on Jace Fox's 540 Studio here on YouTube for the Beyond. That's right, the Beyond. Jace Fox is your host, and one of the people in the chat, Kilt Occasion, he's part of that team, as well as Prismatics, Whoopa Tupa, and Hoshi, Cash, myself. That's between 6 and 6:30 Central Standard Time on Jace Fox's 540 Studio, The Beyond. And hopefully on Monday, another exciting episode of Contraband Police. So please join me there, 5 o'clock Central Standard Time on Baron Ormontag's Fandom Legacy. Other than that, I don't have much more to say. So back to you, Mike.
All right. And as far as what's coming up on Pacific414 for tomorrow at least, at 6 p.m. Eastern, I will be playing more of Metro 2033 Redux. Try to get through that game a little bit more. And then, of course, we have the Sunday edition of Pop Talk coming up this Sunday, where part of it will be my review of Queen of the Ring. Will it be good? Will it be bad? Well, I'll give you my honest opinion on the movie and let you know if it's worth seeing during Sunday's Pop Talk. And of course, I will continue Elite Force next Tuesday on the channel. So if you want to come by and watch any of that stream, please do. But please make sure that you do subscribe to tonight's guest and make sure you do keep up with all the content that Tommy has up on his channel. And again, thank you, Tommy, for being here. And of course, I do want to take the time to thank everybody who was in the chat. And the first person I want to thank is Lady Mist. We also had Kilton Cajun here. We also had Lorenzo Sleestack here. Phil McCracken was here. DJ Ronnie G was here. Also, FKHC 2005, also known as Tim. He was here. Decepticons Cave of Collectibles was here. Gary Ambrosio was here. Stark of Iron was here. We also had Superfan Adam Shawhan here. Apollome's Minion. The Padawannabe. The Long Suffering Miss Tag. You know, she's always got to keep an eye on Baron. Make sure he's
Amen.
behaving.
Amen.
And let's see who else popped in. Jet Sparks popped in. Tree Rock Creations popped in. Orville Nation popped in. And as I scroll up here, looks like I've got everybody who was in the chat. Thank you to everybody who was lurking, listening, watching on either YouTube, X, or Rumble. All of Tommy's links have been posted in the chat, but they're also in the description below on both the YouTube and Rumble side. And remember, folks, here on this channel, I always say don't ever give up on me in a game, because just when you do, you might miss something. Well, that always holds true. So until next time, everybody, have a good night, and we will see you later on in the week.
Hi, everybody.
Autobots,
Bye bye.
transform and roll out.